Blog Talk Radio.
We'll never see you again.
I dearly hope so, my prince. There is so much more I meant to tell you. Everything you know is about to change.
American Daily Review.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance.
When America needed them most, two men rose to the occasion. Doug Gibbs of Constitution Radio and PoliticalPistachio.com. Jasmius of PoliticalPistachio.com, Constitution Radio, and the Hard Starboard Radio Network. This is American Daily Review on blogtalkradio.com.
Holy mackerel there. Hello, Wall. I didn't see you standing there. Did I hurt you? Hello. Boy, I sure did hit you square. Now one of us is plastered, but I'll let you get through. Just imagine bumping into you. Hey, Wall. Hello, hello. Why did you let them move the door and the ceiling? Hello, hello. Why, it used to be the floor. Someone came while I was out and changed you all around me. Why could it be that I'm standing upside down? That chandelier is all lit up. It just took a swing at me. Someone put the bathtub where the damn commode used to be. Oh, wet bed sheet. I think I better lay me down. You know I can't sleep. Hell no, hell no. If this bed keeps you spinning around, there's a picture on the headboard. Yeah, I've seen them folks before. So good. I've been to the house next door.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You're it? You're Lesbian!
No, Jasmius.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game! It's all about the game, and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it. All about your step, and if you can play it. It's all about pain, who's gonna make it? I am the game, you don't wanna play me. I am control, no way you can shake me. I am heavy debt, no way you can pay me. I am the pain, and I know you can't take me. Look over your shoulder, ready to run like a Cleveland bitch from a smoking gun. I am the game, and I make the rules.
Sitting here watching the world burn on the Saturday afternoon extravaganza, an American Daily Review, a production of the Hard Starboard Radio Network, airing 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, or in the most recent terms, starting 7 minutes ago. I'm one of your hosts, Jasmius. During the week, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, I host the Hard Starboard Radio podcast at blogtalkradio.com/HSR Network. Basically, you could describe the Hard Starboard Radio Network as the pregame show for American Daily Review, which is the pregame show for the third hour of the Saturday afternoon extravaganza, Constitution Radio, with this man.
I am Douglas B. Gibbs, and I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men, and free men you are. What will you do with that freedom? Will you fight? Aye. Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your bed many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
In every revolution, there's one man with a vision.
Perhaps today is a good day.
Douglas B. Gibbs. What do you think of my Alan Long update theme? Okay, now why did it lock up?
Oh, there we go. I exist.
Yeah. What do you think of the Alan Long update theme?
Oh, I liked it, and this may come to no surprise to you, but I think today we ought to go through every single story on ADR today and not leave a final two.
I kind of got that impression.
I had a feeling you'd know it. So we're going through every story, and I'm going to go through every story again on Constitutional Radio. There's a couple, 1 and 2, that we're probably going to spend the most time on Constitutional Radio, so that's a good thing. We spend plenty of time on it on the other article stories on this show. What a glorious day. It's sunny out. It's in the upper 70s. The briskness of fall has approached.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I noticed on theguardian.com, I noticed a headline here: Vandals deflate sex toy sculpture in Paris. And they have a picture. Oh, if you needed a better symbol for the signs of the times, I don't think you're going to find one.
Yeah, talk about letting the air out of my introduction.
Hey, it's almost like Kermit the Frog got castrated and then they put it on a pedestal in Paris. It's amazing.
Well,
go ahead.
There's another article that's out there about how people are leaving France in droves or running away from what's going on in France. And my first thought is, well, that makes sense because the French are used to retreating. So, that's of no surprise.
Well, they left behind their deflated sex toy sculptures in the process.
Well, and the most liberal takers, the producers, are running for other countries.
Yeah, because there really isn't much left in France.
Well, and then after a while there will be. I mean, it'll be a Muslim country, and then everything will be fine again.
Yeah, there'll be rivers of blood. Lots of explosives.
And I always talk about how the United States of America is the last bastion of freedom, of liberty, of, what's right in the world. If we fall, where can we go? Well, I shouldn't say we are completely the last bastion. There are other places trying to also be a part of that last, location of freedom, and that's where story number 12 takes us.
Yeah, Hong Kong, and the escalation of the tensions there after some plainclothes police officers, quote unquote, attacked a pro-democracy demonstrator by the name of, where is it here? I know I saw it earlier. I can't find it. Here it is.
Was it Long Duck Dong?
No, it's Ken Sang.
Okay. Well, here's the interesting thing about this is, you only get so much news out of it, and it's interesting because communists are sort of like Muslims in a way. See, Muslims kill you if you don't, convert to Islam. Communists kill you, or at least beat the crap out of you if you don't convert to the party. So it's really kind of the same. I mean, that's what started this whole thing, is that the communist government, who, one country, two, what states, or I can't remember what it was now, but they realized that Hong Kong was, quite prosperous because of its capitalistic system, and they wanted to be able to suck off of that wealth, and so they decided to keep it capitalistic free and all the things that it had always been, so that they could be the parasite. But then when elections coming up in Hong Kong, the party decided, okay, it's time to start taking steps to reel Hong Kong into communist China, and they were going to screen out candidates that would not give their allegiance to the Communist Party. In other words, they'd have to be, communist. And, that wasn't going to work out. And the students, it's always the students, it's always the youth that finally when it finally clicks, they're the ones willing to start, being the monkey in the cage that throws its feces. And so this exploded. Now we've got this, but for the most part, there's been close to violence, but there hadn't been this kind of violence, this type of beating. Matter of fact, at one point, the protesters would hold their hands in the air to show they weren't being violent, they weren't doing any fighting. But now, even holding their hands up wasn't doing anything. This guy was taken down, and the world's watching. The world is watching, and communist China is not sure. I don't think the communists, are sure what to do, because what they want to do, they're not sure if that's the image they want to portray.
Well, the problem is, first of all, Ken Sang, the pro-democracy protester in question, was handcuffed when those half-dozen plainclothes, quote-unquote, police officers started beating him down. And the other thing, of course, is that it was captured on video. And so
we live in a world with social media. Woo!
Yeah, and so now, just like we talked about, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and so this is the most violent crackdown yet since the first weekend of the protests, when police tactics back then, including the use of tear gas, backfired by prompting more protesters to come out to the streets. Now here's what the Communist Party newspaper, the People's Daily, said. They said the protests were doomed to fail and accused those involved of exacerbating disorder through illegal acts, apparently by Ken Sang repeatedly slamming his face into the fists and billy clubs of the plainclothes police officers. Now, here's an interesting follow-up to that. On Wednesday, Hong Kong's most prominent tycoon, Li Ka-shing, broke his silence over the protest to urge the demonstrators to go home. Why is it that the rich never seem to feel like they need to stand up for anything? Now, he said, since the handover, meaning the 1997 cession of Hong Kong by the British to China, which really you can trace it all the way back to that. Also.
It was just an agreement. They were giving back what they had gotten in the Opium Wars.
It was because Hong Kong, the British had Hong Kong on, what was it, a 99-year lease or something like that. And that 1997 happened to be when it expired, and so they just didn't do anything to hold on to it. But Mr. Li Ka-shing said, quote, since the handover, the one country, two system formula, that's what you were, the phrase you were looking for.
That's what I was looking for,
Yeah. That has protected Hong Kong's lifestyle, Lee said, referring to the formula under which the city had been run since its return from British to Chinese rule in 1997. I urge everyone not to be agitated. I urge everyone not to let today's passion become the regret for tomorrow. I earnestly request everyone to return to their families because I've got mine, so I don't have to worry about it. I can buy my freedom, but you all are pretty much screwed, so just go home and sit down and shut up.
Just wait for it. It's coming. Whether you fight or not, it's coming. That's kind of
somehow, I don't think the students are going to listen.
I have a feeling you might be right.
Are we
going to have a Chinese version of Kent State coming soon?
Well, Tiananmen Square would have been that if social media had been around in 1989.
Sure.
As it was just a rumor, an urban legend, and so it didn't capture the public imagination. But if there is a crackdown like that, if the Chi-Com send tanks into Hong Kong and they just run right over the pro-democracy protesters, you talk about a powder keg, and the whole world is going to see it.
Yeah, that's one thing about that's why they want control of technology, is because technology right now is letting out tyranny's secrets.
Although, I was about to say that if the Chi-Coms do send tanks into Hong Kong, there will be no doubt whatsoever that they mean for the world to see it.
This is true.
It's not going to be by any kind of accident that happens.
Okay, well, story number 11, speaking of the left trying to hide things. It's very fascinating stuff. Understand some as we talk about, yes, there were WMD. You and I and pretty much every conservative on this planet knew that there were weapons of mass destruction of some kind in Iraq, and if they weren't, they had been moved, and more than likely to Syria, so that Assad could use them on rebels. And so we just knew. Now, the evidence that there was, and that there were actually soldiers that got sick from these chemical weapons in Iraq during the Iraq War, and then told to hush, hush, because we don't want everybody to know there really is WMD in Iraq. All of that now is coming out. And the first response of the Democrats, well, we didn't mean that kind of WMD. That's not what was meant. Okay. But the thing is, here's the fascinating thing. There's a great article at Ace of Spades that says, wait a second, guys. The WMD, that whole claim that war was over, that was a liberal left created argument. If you really look deeply into it, Bush never said that. He was basically saying what they said in the 90s. Hey, this guy might have, probably has, wants to build. He wants to have the propensity to have WMD so he can use those WMD for, whatever he wants to use them for. That propensity exists. We're not just going there because we think he has these weapons, but that he has the desire to create these weapons. He has the means to create these weapons, and he's used chemical weapons in the past, so we know Saddam Hussein's willing to.
Well,
somehow that became the president lied.
Well, the Bush administration had several different justifications for invading Iraq and Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Sure.
Well, weapons of mass destruction was just one of them. There was his support of terrorism. There was his violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. There was the fact that he was a brutal dictator who was oppressing his people, which would translate to responsibility to protect, which was one of the less persuasive justifications. So, it wasn't just weapons of mass destruction. Now, what the New York Times article essentially says is, first of all, they claim that, well, here's the quote from the New York Times article itself. The United States had gone to war declaring it must destroy an active weapons of mass destruction program, which, of course, is not what the Bush administration said. It didn't say anything of the sort. Now, what the Times does is first they establish what is clearly dishonest. The Bush administration, the one and only reason they went is for weapons of mass destruction. That's not true. But the Times states that so that they can go on to report that, well, you know what, there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but the Bush administration kept it quiet. They didn't say anything about it. And they let 17 U.S. servicemen suffer horrible injuries and die rather than reporting to the public that, well, yes, there were weapons of mass destruction.
And the first question that comes to mind is, why would Bush hide if that was his excuse?
Yeah, it doesn't quite line up.
So who really was? So first of all, who really was shutting up these soldiers? Number one, and number two, why wasn't it revealed? What was it? Maybe the media that shut it down.
But here's the money paragraph in the New York Times article. The secrecy fit a pattern. Since the onset of the war, the scale of the United States encounters with chemical weapons in Iraq was neither publicly shared nor widely circulated within the military. These encounters carry worrisome implications now that the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda splinter group controls much of the territory where the weapons were found. So in so many words, who's responsible for the rise of the Islamic? Who's responsible for the rise of the Islamic State? George W. Bush.
It's his fault that they've got weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah. Bush's fault. Everything is Bush's fault.
It's all Bush's fault, yeah. Wow, it's amazing how much fault can still fall upon the man a term and a half after his presidency ended. Absolutely amazing. I'm wondering if the next Democrat president, which I think will probably take office about 50 years, will still be blaming George Bush.
It'd be a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, well, that's hopeful thinking, I guess, wishful thinking.
Well, yeah, in a just
it might be in 2 years.
In a just insane world, yeah, that would be the case, but that's not the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But so even because when I first saw this headline, I thought, why is? My first thought was, well, yeah, no Chinola, Sherlock. We've been telling you that for the past decade, that, yes, there were weapons of mass destruction.
Everything's about political spin.
And then I got to think, well, why is the New York Times reporting this now? I mean, obviously they hate Bush, and they got to protect Obama, and so why are they doing this now? Oh, yeah. They can't let Barack Obama be blamed for the rise of the Islamic State. So how are we gonna get around that? Well, how about we go back to weapons of mass destruction and report what we've been embargoing for the past 11 years, but only report part of it so that we can frame George W. Bush as being responsible for the rise of ISIS. Now it makes sense.
Of course, everything's going so well with the war on ISIS, so, we're not overly concerned about that. I mean, our coalition is holding together, and they're all working with us gladly and gleefully, and, we're making grounds. We're stopping ISIS from advancing. Always, that's right, that's that wishful thinking world again. Never mind. Delay everything I just said.
Well, no, you can't delete it because that's the truth, because Barack Obama's the master of all reality. If he says it's true, then it's true, even if it's not. Even if it's not. He's got this gauntlet he puts on his putting arm that allows him to control all reality. It's a quantum phase enhancer rhetorical thingy. It came with his teleprompter. And so that anything he says, reality automatically shifts to accommodate him.
I saw something earlier today, a video that kind of cracked me up. What was his name? Michael Lynch, the one with the They Came to America videos.
I don't know right off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, he's considering running for president. I don't know if as a third-party guy or as a Republican, but he starts his speech in such a way it pretty much sums Obama up. He says, hang on, his phone starts ringing. He just walks up to the podium. He's right in front of the microphone. He's getting ready to, give his introduction. His phone rings. He looks at everybody and says, hang on a sec. Pulls out the phone. Hello? Oh, Mr. Obama. Yeah, no. Oh, night golf, is it? Oh. Yeah, use the putter. What am I doing right now? Oh, I'm working on replacing you in your job. And then everybody cheers. But it cracked me up because, the joke was the guy was on the golf course. And I want you to understand something. When this president doesn't take anything seriously because he's got all of his minions doing all the work. He just all he cares about is golfing. What work does he need to do? They're doing all the work. They've got it down. They're targeting conservative groups and deciding what information will go out to the media and so on and so on. He's not worried about it. So he cares about his golfing. He thinks about golfing. He dreams about golf. I used to golf. I love golf. I thought about golfing often. The thing is that when it came time for me to actually do a job or do something, golf left my brain. He doesn't believe he has much of a job to do. It's chicken feed. It's easy. There's nothing to it. He just says, do this. It happens. All of his minions run in circles. So what does he care? He wants to go on the golf course.
Good to be the king.
Good to be the king.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's from Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 2.
No, that's also from, it was, but it was also from Robin Hood Men in Tights. If you remember, King John says it's good to be the king, as his mole appears in a different location.
Yeah, that too. I was thinking of the scene where Mel Brooks was going around as Louis XIV, feeling up all the buckets of Paris.
Good to be the king. Also, he said, he used the "it's good to be the king" line twice. It was such a good line.
Oh yeah, he looks right at the camera and he says, "Good to be the king."
Good to be the king. Yeah, well, I have History of the World also, Part 2. So, all right.
Yeah. Story number 10.
Story number 10. Unfair. Exposing the I.R.S. Did you get a chance to see it?
No, I did not.
I didn't get a chance to see it either. I had a Constitution class I was teaching in Corona. One of the people in my Constitution class, the moment the last word left my mouth, he ran out the door, got in his vehicle, went down the road to Riverside, and saw the movie. Then after the movie, he had a whole stack of my business cards, not my regular business cards, but the ones that have the Constitution classes on it and all that jazz. It's more of an information card that looks like a business card. And he's handing those things out like crazy. And he sends me a text after he's done handing them all out, and he says, "Hey, Doug, just to let you know, man, I ran down to that Tyler Mall, Riverside UA Theater, I.R.S., exposing I.R.S. movie, and handed all your info cards out. I was surprised how many people knew who you were." It's good to be the Constitution guy. But anyway,
absolutely.
The Unfair movie, Unfair exposing the I.R.S., according to him, was very well done. It was very well put. Now, he's a member of the John Birch Society, which I agree with on everything except for a couple things. We usually battle it out when it comes to war powers and Article 5 conventions, but that's okay. They're allies. I'm willing to work with them. I'm going to agree with them on everything except for two things. They're worth working with. But also they tend to be more in line with kind of the Ron Paul attitude when it comes to the Fed, which I have no problem with. I think Ron Paul kind of got it right there. However, what they're calling for is something called a fair tax, a nationalized
a value-added tax.
Which is what it opens the door up for, absolutely. I've written that before, so when you wrote it, I was like, great minds think alike. That's what opens the door for it. It's like I tell people, and you told people in your article, the problem isn't who's administering the tax or how it's being administered, but the fact that we have a direct taxation on American people in the first place. Get rid of direct taxation. The problem is not a revenue problem. The problem is a spending problem. And see, politicians, that's all they think about is revenue. See, and their problem is a lot of their programs screw their revenue up, so they got to find new ways to get revenue. A great example of that is their push for green energy. Well, suddenly now there's less gasoline being used, and so their gas tax revenue has gone down. So now they want to tax you by the mile, which we're going to start doing in California before long. So they're always having to come up with new ways to tax you, new ways to take money out of your hands because they keep screwing it up on the money that they're taking from you in the first place because of their policies. Liberalism is a contradiction anyway. But anyway, my final word on unfair exposing the I.R.S. Should you see it? Absolutely. Does it give a lot of good information? From what I understand, absolutely. I want to be a part in helping get the DVD out. However, once again, I must add that little caveat. I agree. Let's get rid of the Fed, but let's get rid of direct taxation too. Why replace it with something else that politicians will play with?
Well, and it's not just my concern is not that a fair tax would replace the federal income tax. My concern is that a fair tax would be piled atop the federal income tax, because before you go down this road, first and foremost, it's an absolute prerequisite. You have to repeal the 16th Amendment. And does anybody seriously believe that the federal government is going to give up that kind of power? No, they are not.
Right.
That's the kind of change that can only happen after a complete national collapse. It's not going to happen in the status quo ever. So that and so when you push a fair tax, yeah, Mike Huckabee was featured in this movie, Unfair, exposing the I.R.S. and he made the case for a fair tax, but the more you make it, see, that's the problem. Making the case for another tax before you've gotten rid of the 16th Amendment. That's just you don't want to go there. Don't want to go there.
Well, the thing is also, it's sort of like Obamacare. The problem is a third-party payer. So the way to fix the problem is to change a third-party payer from a private industry to government. That makes no sense. The problem is the third-party payer in the first place. How is government can administer the problem any better in the first place? The problem is direct taxation. The problem isn't just income tax or your W-2 and all that, federal withholding. The problem isn't that. The problem is the fact that there's a direct tax in the first place. So your attitude is, well, to fix the direct tax, we'll just come up with a different direct tax? To me, that makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if the problem is the direct taxation, then you work to diminish it, so you get rid of it. Fair tax, I don't think, diminishes it. If anything, it opens the door for even greater abuse, especially with VAC.
Now, of course, indirect taxation, for those of you in Malaga, Washington, refers to the condition in the United States between 1789 and 1913, wherein the federal government did not directly tax citizens; they taxed the states. And the states, it was through, and they called it a national tariff, but basically that's the form it took. It worked just fine until 1913, and then and
it was based on population. The federal government came up with their budget, whatever the total amount was. If your state was, say, 8% of the population, then your state's going to pay 8% of that budget.
Right. The states went from the superintendents of the federal government to the federal government's mini-me's, in essence, because they went from controlling the federal government to the federal government remaking them in their own image. So all the states do now is they do exactly what the federal government does. They tax the people. And while the states are entitled to do so, original authority, the federal government was never empowered to do that.
Right.
But they seized the power anyway.
And the thing is, if that tariff was ridiculous, if the budget was wrong, the states have the ability to say, think again, buddy boy, we ain't giving you your tax. Try again. They were entitled to do that.
Precisely. Power.
Could you imagine sending a letter to the I.R.S.? Think again, buddy boy. It was a little high this year.
Yeah, start living within your means. What a concept.
Yeah, you expect me to, yeah. Boy. Okay. Story number 10 again, right?
9.
I just now noticed, though, I misdid the numbers.
3,
12,
4.
11, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7. Yeah.
Oh, was that? Did you? I
didn't
even notice
screwed
that.
it up. Yeah,
I got
really should be story number 11.
3, 4. So 12, 11, 10, 9. So this is story number 9 on my list.
Well, hang on. 9 and 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Yeah, no. This is actually story number 10. What I did is actually I put 2 10s on there, according to my sheet. But anyway, regardless, we'll figure it out. Every once in a while, Doug isn't perfect. Every once in a while, Doug makes mistakes. Let's see, black nationalism influence in Ferguson. Now, when I wrote this article, my article about black nationalism and Ferguson, and put it on and had Canada Free Press put it on their site. I got some very interesting emails about that. Most people said, "Holy cow, you nailed it."
Mm-hmm.
Never thought about that. Other people said, "Yeah, that's exactly right," and I knew it. And then there were some people like, "You racist piece of crap." So, there's always these. But understand what you understand what black nationalism is, Jasmine?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a companion piece at politicalpistachio.com. In fact, it was an example of what you were talking about.
Right.
The Black Panthers, specifically Malik Zulu Shabazz, who used to be head of the Black Panthers. Now he's head of Black Lawyers for Justice, and he appeared on Fox. Yeah, I know. And he appeared on Fox News Radio this week with John Gibson to make some very interesting remarks. And those remarks boiled down to calling for a, quote, rebellion, close quote, against the United States government if Ferguson, Missouri police officer Darren Wilson is not indicted by a grand jury for the murder of Michael Brown. So in essence, lynch Darrell Wilson or it's civil war. Which just illustrates that the events in Ferguson, Missouri involving the Terrence Pot Roast Knighton-sized Michael Brown and his attempt to kill Officer Darren Wilson are just a pretext. Like the left always does, they're just looking for an excuse, a pretext to advance their agenda, and they're going balls to the wall on this one.
Well, of course, there's race riots. I mean, that's what Helter Skelter. That's what Charles Manson's Helter Skelter was all about. The race riots are coming. The race riots are coming. The race riots are coming. It's the same crap now that they're trying to reinstitute. Why? Because racial division. That's the best way to advance a tyrannical system is through racial division and so on and so forth. Now, that we are not racist. They are fomenting racism and then pointing fingers at us. Now, that all said, what's coming out too, and people like you and I, we knew this from the beginning. This is not news, but now the media is reporting that, like Trayvon Martin, the truth about the case over Michael Brown's death and him being, the shooting, not exactly what it seems to protesters. The truth is something completely different.
Well, of course, but they're not interested in truth. In fact, probably all of those protesters, or almost all of them, are imported from outside.
Yeah, how convenient. Well, and as I wrote the piece, the intent of this had nothing to do with what the truth is. It was all about racial division. It was all about creating a crisis. It was all about, setting up, this kind of attitude among the blacks. It's us against them type attitude. They want them to have that attitude because then they'll never vote anything other than for the plantation.
Precisely. It says, I concluded in my post that Malik Zulu Shabazz is simply trying to light the fuse, a smidgen too indiscreetly. But the bomb is in Washington, D.C., awaiting the opportune crisis toward which to detonate. If they can martial law in Ferguson or in St. Louis or in the entire state of Missouri and as many other places as the Black Panthers and their affiliates can stir up sufficient civil unrest. A part of it is that the left always lives in the past. They hearken back to the 1960s. They hearken back to Selma, Alabama. They hearken back to the Watts riots. They hearken back to 1968. That was the heyday of the new left, when you had the days of rage at the Chicago Democrat Convention, and you had the riots following the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. Those are the days that they hearken back to and want to revisit, want to bring back again. Because they probably realize, we blew a real big opportunity back then, and we'd like to have that back so that we can not make that same mistake twice.
Not even realizing that what they have bought into is actually further enslavement on the Democrat plantation. You don't know how bad I wanted to make the Jugar Stacey Dash deal its own story. I tell you that I loved writing that piece, and the Jugar thing is actually like a week or a week and a half ago, but I felt it should be left with Stacey Dash because they both, basically they were accused for resisting evil. But what cracked me up about it is the black actress was called racist, and the white woman over the pro-life thing was basically called sexist. Racism and sexism and all these other accusations have nothing to do with race, gender. It all has everything to do with ideology.
Oh, it has everything to do with the other. You do have 2 number 10s in here, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was 9, and then that was okay.
No. Unfair was actually 11. Black nationalism is 10.
Well, I'm looking at 12 was Hong Kong, 11 was there were.
No, but Hong Kong really was supposed to be 13. That's what I'm getting at.
All right, 13, 12, 11, 10, and then when we move on here, it'll be number 9, I guess.
Yeah. Now we're on number 9. Well, now the numbers are correct. And basically, we're talking about the disappearing pudge.
Oh, yeah. Kim Jong-Un.
Reappearing. He's like one of those neat little toys that disappears and reappears for, a magician.
Yeah, it was, the line is from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Acme disappearing, reappearing Inc. Well, apparently Kim Jong-Un was doused in it, and he disappeared for 6 weeks. I mean, parenthetically, that is an awful lot of Acme disappearing, reappearing Inc.
Because he may be short, but the boy be round.
Yeah, that's a whole vat of it right there at the very least, and he probably found it delicious too. But
here's the thing, I really felt bad because the first article I wrote on this, I was so just making fun of him, and I can't even take the idiot seriously. North Korea and the pudgy dictator is such a joke that I can't even write seriously about it. I mean, you read the first piece I wrote about it, right? I mean, I was just full of one-liners and tongue-in-cheek.
I remember.
Because I just can't take the little short little pudgy thing seriously.
Pot-bellied pig. Pot-bellied pig is, I think, the phrase you're looking for. Yeah, I was starting to think that you were I was finally rubbing off on you because that you don't often see posts by Mr. Gibbs that are that full of irreverence. As that one was, but yeah, I mean, he disappears for 6 weeks, and of course, if you remember back in the Cold War, for those of you old enough to remember the Cold War, you remember the term Kremlinology. Well, I guess this is Barkology because speculating where Kim Jong-Un had gone to, and there was as always happens in these situations, there were speculations that there was a military coup, somebody assassinated him, somebody got him. Well, no, apparently he went off to the North Korean fat farm, and now, or maybe he had to lose weight in order to maybe he got so fat that he broke one of his ankles just from his sheer mass,
I think that he tripped over a carrot someone was trying to force him to eat, and it sprained his ankle.
Well, that's always possible. I tend to think that the rank and file North Korean population, they were. I saw there was an episode of Family Guy I saw last night where Brian, the dog, decides to become a long distance runner, and he loses all this weight, and he's down to absolutely like 1% body fat, and he lines up at the starting line to run a marathon, and he takes his first step, and his leg shatters because he's gotten so emaciated. That's what the North Korean population reminds me of. A diet of bark and moss and dirt is not
or as
the kind
I like
of thing
to call
that
it,
can
the
stick to your
land of the
phone.
bark eaters.
The land of the bark eaters. Yeah, I understand you can make a great salad dressing from bark.
Well, cinnamon is bark.
Well, I mean, I don't know that from direct experience, and I look it.
But cinnamon is a type of bark, so I mean, bark can be used.
Yeah, but no one's ever going to get fat on bark, which tells you all you need to know about whether bark is in Kim Jong-un's diet.
Well, it's not in his diet, yeah, that's for sure. Okay, story number 8. General McInerney. Now, we've had him on the show before, and you put out a very interesting thing about this. I want you to talk about this more than me because you've got more on it, but let me say this before you get started. Didn't you and I say that the plane was probably in Pakistan during all that hubbub going on?
Well, we broached that possibility, which, of course...
I told people. I said it's in Pakistan. That's what I told people. I think it's in Pakistan. That's what I think it is.
Well, there have been all manner of programs on the History Channel, on Discovery Channel, a lot of those cable networks, purporting
We're talking about that Malaysian flight, by the way, folks, if you're that Malaysian flight.
Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 that disappeared last spring over the South Indian Ocean that's the dominant theory. That it disappeared over the South Indian Ocean. It just sometimes things just go wrong. And, you remember all the ridiculous speculation on CNN about up to and including black holes and dimensional rifts and aliens and so forth.
Oh yeah.
And now. Personally, I have never conclusively asserted, yep, it's in Pakistan, you just wait and see. All I said was, you know what, that is a very real possibility that should be considered. But all these documentaries that have been on the tube, on cable television the last few months, have gone out of their way to prove that. Oh, it's not that. It couldn't possibly be that. And
they're willing to believe that it's a black hole over Pakistan. They so much wanted it not to be Pakistan.
Well, now, here is a report that Lieutenant General McInerney mentioned on Fox News Channel the other day. 10 days after the flight vanished, LigNet, which I'm assuming is the organization to which General McInerney is, or with which he's affiliated, learned that engineers at Boeing, the plane's manufacturer, believed the missing aircraft was on the ground in Pakistan. For several reasons, including Al-Qaeda's presence there, historical attack patterns, corruption and weakness, and terrorist sympathies at the highest levels inside Pakistan, that hunch may be right. Now, LigNet put out a report, substantiated, let's see, what day was that? Substantiated Thursday, so just 48 hours ago, that their sources got their information from Boeing sources, which is covert. Not that they got their information from the Boeing company, because they're involved in the investigation, that the airplane was in Pakistan. That was confirmed by LigNet on Monday, and General McInerney got another source at LigNet that confirmed it on Thursday. Now, he believes that those people in Pakistan, in the ISI, the Pakistani Intelligence Service, which has been double-dealing us for years on the war on terror, those people who knew where Osama bin Laden was and didn't tell us. And he believes that the same elements, the same elements could be involved with getting that airplane into a Pakistani Air Force base. So, I was throwing that out there for public consumption. But, I mean, it's something to bear in mind, because remember those missing 11 airliners from Libya?
Right.
So, I mean,
what they're doing is they are amassing weapons of mass destruction that worked so well on 9/11.
And remember that they don't have to hijack the airliners. They have their own fleet.
Right.
And how much you want to bet that they will all have transponders that correspond to actual flights, so that air traffic control systems won't be the wiser, and then they'll go off course, and it'll be the exact same kind of confusion that's happened on 9/11. I mean,
right.
Basically, 9/11 was 4. This would be 12, conceivably. Whether they're all in one place or different targets.
You hit LA, you hit New York, you hit London, you hit Paris. You know, you hit all these targets simultaneously. I mean, that's what I think they may be working towards.
And you know, what would there be to stop them? And nobody's talking. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about this ego. All these other things going on.
Us.
Pardon?
You said nobody's talking about this stuff except us.
Well, that's because we're just so gosh darn far ahead of the curve. But I think it's no, seriously. You know, it's not that we're so smart that we're prophets or anything. We're just looking at news reports. We're looking at information and asking questions.
Well, not just that, but see, tyranny and bad guys are very predictable.
Very much so. Yeah, which gets back to the fact that it's not that you and I are so brilliant. It's just, you know, we study history. We understand who the enemy really is, and things happen, and we just connect the dots. It's not that difficult.
Right, exactly.
It's just nobody wants to do it. And, you know, well, it's part of it's human nature, but part of it is just malevolence
paying
by
attention.
the powers that be.
Yeah, just pay attention. That's all it is. We pay attention.
Yeah,
we do the hard thinking, so you don't have to.
Yeah, we contemplate the horrific, so that when it happens, we can say, "Well, we told you so."
All right. Speaking of seeing what's down the pike, story number 7. Russian President Putin's eyeing the West. The Baltic states are his next move, I really think. Because the one thing that Putin has learned watching history, and he has learned from history, is that when you have weak appeasers in office, it's easy to take over the world. But you don't do it in the way that Dr. Evil would do it or Hitler would do it. You do it in a manner that the liberal left would do it. You know, you create a little unrest. You know, you get everybody upset at each other. You create your own insider group that takes over from within, and then you come in as a humanitarian aid to help and say, hey, you know, there's all this fighting. We're going to just go in there and help out. And
in other words,
you own it.
In other words, you don't go in such a way that it raises sufficient public alarm to discredit the appeasers and the collaborators.
It wasn't Russia's fault, man. Those rebels, they want to be a part of Russia, you know, and they just, because they felt they were being treated wrongly by the host nation, and, you know, I mean, but really that is what Hitler did when it came to Czechoslovakia. And
look at all the cover that Vladimir Putin has for what he's doing in eastern Ukraine now, and for plotting, for moving against the ball. I mean, well, heck, we've been talking about this for months, about how the next step is the Baltic states. Remember we talked.
Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia.
Well, remember Obama's idea for a NATO rapid reaction force, so that if the Russians moved against any of the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, that NATO would send this rapid reaction force of 4,000 troops within 48 hours.
And that's the thing here. That's the thing to remember. Ukraine is not a member of NATO, but the Baltic states are, and there's an agreement there. The Baltic states are attacked. They all have to get together and defend those NATO nations. That said, how do you decide to attack the aggressor if the aggressor says, oh, it's not me, it happened within, and I'm just trying to help out those poor people because it's terrible what's happening in that country.
Yeah, it muddies the waters, and it gives the appeasers the excuse to back down.
And appease, yeah.
And appease. I mean, it's classic. It's perfect. Which kind of made the headline of the Associated Link at Yahoo.com news. Putin's next move could make Eastern Europe explode. Well, not necessarily. I mean, because you know that, and Putin knows, and we know that Putin knows that we know that he knows that the West is looking for any excuse not to do anything about what Putin's doing.
Right. So he's
just
willing to be a nice guy and give them that excuse.
And then, bam! Then he can just move in by degrees in the Baltic states, and then next will come Poland and Romania and Hungary and Romania, and then pretty soon, wow, the Warsaw Pact.
I think Hungary actually sounds a little better. Maybe we should send a letter to the leaders and say, hey, you need to change the name of your country to Hungary.
Wasn't that where Victor Von Doom was from? Oh, wait a minute. No, he was from Latveria. That's right. I almost forgot. So, I mean, that'll be coming. And with all these other things going on, with the Ebola epidemic and with the Islamic State and this and that and the other, Tsar Vlad can just very quietly rebuild the old Soviet Union.
And now it's time for story number 6, where we talk about those very tolerant homosexuals. We're so tolerant. It's amazing.
Yeah. Here's the name, ladies and gentlemen, Annise Parker. Now, who the hell is Annise Parker, you might be asking? Annise Parker is the lesbian mayor of Houston, Texas. And now we see why Annise Parker ran for mayor of Houston, Texas in the first place.
Now remember, she has a couple of gay city council members on the council to help her.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Minions, yes. And, of course, the point of contention here is that there is a city ordinance that I forget the details of it now, but
it's basically a cross between a non-discrimination and a transgender bill. And basically, it disallows any kind of discrimination for any reason, especially sexually. So that means that males can use female bathrooms and females can use male bathrooms, because we can't have that kind of discrimination. Hey, I just kind of feel like a girl today. And it's like I asked a Democrat woman, matter of fact, yesterday, while I was at an office, and actually after listening to me talk, she wants to come to my Constitution class. That's how good I am. I got Democrats wanting to come to my Constitution class. But anyway, it's like I told her, how would you feel if you were sitting on the toilet and I felt like a woman that day and walked in and sat next to you?
Yeah, that's the thing about this that is, I do a double take, because you would think that the people who would be most up in arms about a city ordinance like this would be the feminists. I mean, because the critics of this, the ones that are trying to resist this ordinance, they're calling it. They've dubbed this ordinance the Sexual Predator Protection Act.
But you have to understand that feminists. Remember who the feminists are, though. They are ugly women seeking attention.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God! Yes.
So I mean, if you're an ugly woman and you couldn't get a guy to give you any attention, but he's willing to come into the bathroom with you, hey, maybe this is something you might want to support.
Take what they can get. And of course, there were.
Of course, he's got boobs and he's dressed like a woman like you, but he's got the equipment.
Yeah, well, Michelle Obama has a busy schedule, so she just, spreading herself kind of thin, but you know, she does what she can. Now, these prominent among the opposition to the city ordinance is a coalition of local Christian groups, and so this has prompted Mayor Annise Parker of Houston, Texas, to demand that they turn over to her the content of their recent sermons, to see, you know, to check them for homophobic content.
Well,
and then if they,
you know, more specifically, you know, going against this particular law. Yeah, so because see, you're not allowed to, as a preacher, according to her, speak politically, and so the best way they can get you is make the things you're talking about political.
And of course, in so doing, effectively outlawing them. It's no longer. They want it. She wants the lesbian mayor of Houston, Texas, wants to dictate what is in the sermons of Christian pastors within her jurisdiction.
Yeah, matter of fact, as an entrepreneur, I've got an idea for the next big item. I'm thinking about investing on going into production as soon as possible. Bible safes, you know, so you can hide your Bible from the authorities. I bet you I could sell a lot of Bible safes.
I bet you could. I bet that's something for the Constitution Association shop.
There you go.
When that gets
right next to story number 1.
Now I know that this probably doesn't sound very Christian, but those pastors should collectively say, and a lot of them are already saying it in so many words. What they should say is to Mayor Parker, screw you and the horse you rode in on, and of course you could substitute a different term for the word screw.
Yeah, sorry about that beep there. I accidentally touched my phone.
Okay. It happened.
Did you hear that? You heard that?
I heard it. I heard it.
Yeah.
I heard it.
Yeah, well, I was trying to mute myself, you know, to say something to Alex. I just pulled up the parking lot, and Alex pulled up the same time as I did here at the studio, and for some reason the 2, which is nowhere near the mute button, is what I touched.
Now, there is an accompanying story that I posted at the Political Pistachio just this morning. Federal judge strikes down Arizona's ban on homosexual marriage. U.S. District Judge John Sedgwick barred Arizona officials from enforcing a 1996 state law and a 2008 voter-approved constitutional amendment that outlawed homosexual marriage. Of course, that's not really what it is, just declared marriage is what marriage is, and homosexual unions don't fall within the definition. So it's not banning gay marriage, it's just saying you don't get to do that.
Well, and Alaska's law was just hit by the Supreme Court, too.
Yeah, so I mean, so now Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, and any state within the jurisdiction of the de facto Supreme Court, I'm referring to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, because the Supreme Court just said, okay, you can decide it. So, and so that we, you know, it's like I said, the Supreme Court sowed the Crisco whirlwind, and now the Grand Canyon State is the first to reap it, or the most recent to reap it. Draw whatever conclusion, and may God have mercy on our souls. So,
I made myself a burrito so that I wouldn't buy Chinese. I got to the studio. I'm looking at my burrito, and I said to myself in my mind just now, I'd rather have Chinese.
Well, so would I. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, well, it's a chorizo and cheese and tomato burrito, which is good. But now that I'm here, it's like the Chinese sounds so much better.
The Chinese food is calling to you.
Yeah. All right. Off to the next story before I get off on some
tangent.
Silly,
well, the next story involves Barack Obama's new Ebola Czar. That would be Ron Klain. Now, who is Ron Klain? Well, he helped orchestrate the 2008 financial crisis. He served as the chief of staff to both Vice Presidents Al Gore and Joe Biden, and was a key figure in Al Gore's attempt to steal the 2000 presidential election. Now, he has three chief qualifications for being Ebola Czar. Number one, he's a longtime Democrat operative. Number two, he's a lawyer. And number three, he's, as I just mentioned, he served as chief of staff for Vice President Al Gore and was a key figure during the 2008 Florida presidential election recount. Now,
and he has a Solyndra connection as well.
Well, of course he does. Now, you know, first of all, an Ebola Czar is unconstitutional. All the czars are unconstitutional because it's taking place outside of the Senate oversight confirmation process.
Sure. Advise and consent powers.
Advice and consent. Well, that takes place. Advice and consent. I don't need to submit anything for your stinking advice and consent. Well, you know, it raises a few other questions, though. Like, why, for example, has the Obama regime appointed a Democrat political operative to oversee its attempt to address the Ebola crisis, if you will, as opposed to, how about the Surgeon General, Boris Lushniak, by the way, is his name. That probably explains why we haven't heard about Surgeon General lately. Or how about Health and Human Services Secretary Sylvia Burwell, or Health and Human Services Assistant Secretary for Emergency Preparedness and Response, Nicole Lurie. How about these people? These people are actually oversee health care.
And if anything, they have more power than a department head, which does, get confirmed by the Senate.
They have, not that they're supposed to have oversight over health, constitutionally speaking, but
but that's why this guy has given them so much power, because he knows he can put whoever he wants without anybody in the way.
See, the reason there is one reason only why Ron Klain has been appointed Ebola Czar rather than people who actually know something about healthcare, know something about infectious disease, who could actually know what they were doing. And that is that Barack Obama doesn't want to prevent an Ebola epidemic, but he does want to exploit it politically to further enhance his already despotic power.
Right.
In fact, I think Ron Klain's chief task in the next 17 days is to make the Democrats smear of the GOP this week as the party of Ebola from all the supposed non-existent, fantasy, totally fictitious budget cuts to the Center for Disease Control, the National Institutes for Health. I think Ron Klain's chief task will be to make that smear stick before Election Day.
Well, yeah, because he it's absolutely amazing. Ebola is all the GOP's fault. It's all Bush's fault. Sort of like those, the WMD, now and the new war and ISIS and all. It's all Bush's fault. And so somehow they still find a way to blame Bush for everything.
Oh yeah, in fact,
Ebola is Bush's fault too.
Ebola is Bush's fault. Now, did you see? I put a post up at politicalpistachio.com this week. About all the interesting things that the National Institutes for Health and Centers for Disease Control have spent their money on.
Mm-hmm. It's a fascinating list.
Oh yeah, $325,000 for a study that found wives could be happier if they would calm down faster during arguments with their husbands. $386,000 to study the proper massage techniques for rabbits.
Yes, they didn't have enough money for Ebola.
$940,000 for why fruit flies fall in love. $667,000 for why people watch old reruns of Seinfeld. $350,000 for researching how golfers perform when using their imaginations. Let's see, what else do I got here? $257,000 on a game website of Michelle Obama's White House garden. $592,000 for finding out how $592,000 for finding out chimps who throw their poop the best also communicate better. $117,000.
Funny that I brought that up earlier.
$117,000 for finding out most chimps throw their poop right-handed. And here's my favorite one of all.
The hell you say? Oh.
Here's my favorite one of all, ladies and gentlemen. Are you sitting down? Are you prepared?
For some reason, this feels like a Letterman's list or something. Now the number one.
And the number one item on the most ridiculous, or on the list of the most ridiculous things upon which the Centers for Disease Control and National Institutes for Health have spent yours and my taxpayer money, $2.4 million on origami condom design. Origami condom design. I mean, is anybody...
I don't even know how that's possible. I can't even imagine what that would be or look like or be like or how protective it would be.
Is anybody anatomically designed that way?
Origami condom design. They spent over $2 million on origami condom design, but they didn't have enough money for Ebola, and therefore it's Bush's fault.
Yeah, I will tell you this much. If there is anybody that is anatomically shaped that way, they will be the next protected civil rights class in this country. And origami condoms will become an entitlement.
Don't be hating because I've got an origami. Oh boy, yeah. Well, so I'm trying to figure out, how many people would have junk shaped like a paper swan.
That's one of those things that I can't make myself do. I can't do it. There are lots of things I could make myself do. There's lots of things I have made myself do over the past half century, but that is one thing I wouldn't know where to start. What do you do? It's like those man on the street segments on Jimmy Kimmel, or I guess Jay Leno used to have them on the Tonight Show, where you walk up to people and you ask them questions. Can you imagine walking up to somebody and saying, "Hello, can I ask you a question? Is your junk shape? Are your genitalia? Is your genitals or are your genitals shaped like origami?"
And how dare you question that? How dare you question that? What do what are you, a doctor or something? You don't know this. I mean, so like a CBS producer who pointed out about Rand Paul. Says he didn't know what he's talking about. Since when did he become a doctor? Wait a second. He is a doctor. That's right.
Well, an ophthalmologist, but you notice how quickly that tweet disappeared?
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It's like, it's funny because that was a CBS News producer, and who posted that tweet and then deleted it. But aren't news producers actually supposed to be informed about the people about which they write their stories?
Well, yeah. Well, she's sort of like that Democrat that I talked to, which we talked about earlier in the week or last week, I think it was actually, earlier this week that I talked to you about. That Democrat that I sat down with who had never heard of the knockout games.
Oh yeah.
They know what they want to know. They don't pay attention to anything that might prove what they believe wrong.
Yeah, it's called existential closure. You live in the bubble, and anybody, anything that doesn't fit into the narrative, in other words, you associate only with people who think exactly like you do, and then it becomes a case of positive feedback. They constantly reinforce what they think they.
And then you become like Pelosi, who says, "I don't understand how McCain got the electoral votes he got. I don't know anybody that would vote for him or that voted for him."
Yeah, that goes back to the 1972 election. Originally, that's when that woman in somewhere in Minnesota, Minneapolis or something, said, "How could Nixon have won by a landslide? No one I know voted for him."
All right.
It's just
they live in their little world.
It's that bubble, and if and no outside ideas. They don't even look at outside ideas. It used to be that they would just sneer at opposing ideas. Now they don't even know what to make of them because they don't even pay attention to them. And so when they're confronted with them, they're like, "What are you talking about?"
It's idiotic. We'll ridicule you for that belief, even if you're right.
Well, they don't allow that much, even frankly. But
the tweeter with the Rand Paul thing. Okay, story number 4: Ebola mess proves Obama's incompetence, or is it designed unwillingness,
or just malevolence? Yeah, I mean,
he wants a crisis, and here's the fascinating thing about it is. It kind of goes back to that Putin thing with the Baltic states. What he has to get what he wants, but he has to mask it that that's not what he wants. He wants an Ebola crisis. Obama wants this entire country in panic. So the best way to get them to panic is to say, "Don't panic."
And at the cost of making himself look incompetent, but then that's part of the scam too.
Right.
Because it's easier.
He found out about it on the news just the other day. Don't you know?
Oh, of course. I mean, it's much easier to spin incompetence than it is malevolence. Because that what Barack Obama really is what people I don't think people are capable of getting their minds around. Because nobody can conceive of a real life Manchurian candidate in the White House. They just can't conceive of it, and they don't want to accept the fact that it was their lack of vigilance, their foolishness, their ignorance, their vote that put him in office and put us in this predicament. They just don't want. Nobody wants to think about that. And I go down the list here. I mean, I know I realize, and I'll take responsibility for turning political pistachio into Ebola Palooza this week. But
that's okay. I've been my share also. Of course, I wrote more about the mayor of Marietta, which we'll get to in a bit. But absolutely. The thing is, it's like I wrote today about Ebola. I wrote this morning. Hey, to a point, I agree with Obama. Don't get hysterical. Don't panic, because then you wind up crushed under your own pandemonium. But that said, that doesn't mean you do the exact opposite. You have certain concerns. You've got to have a certain sense of urgency. You just don't do it in a panicked manner. You understand the potential, but you handle it, as you need to handle it. Now, that said, that doesn't mean that you completely ignore all preventive measures. You've got to be reasonable, at least. I mean, it's like the old saying, you hope for the best and plan for the worst.
And the chief preventative measure is banning flights from West Africa. I mean, this just is such a no-brainer that of course, that Barack Obama is stoutly opposing.
But you know why he won't do it. Right?
Well, it would be racist. He wants another on-ramp for amnesty.
It goes way. Yeah, there you go. Now you're heading in the right direction. If he was willing to ban flights out of West Africa, then what's his excuse for not sealing the border?
Sealing the border, exactly. In fact, I posted.
So he can't ban flights because then it would open up the opportunity for those expecting to seal the border to go after him. Hey, Ebola's come across the border too. Steal that too.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, here's some I put up on Political Pistachio just this morning. Obama to admit non-citizens for Ebola treatment. This is
well, because we have the best health care in the world, even though it's the worst that needs to be fixed.
A Judicial Watch. Yeah, speaking of logical conundrums, Judicial Watch put this out just yesterday. The Obama regime is formulating plans to admit Ebola-infected non-U.S. citizens into the United States for treatment, in effective violation of Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. The group, Judicial Watch, which cited one unidentified source, said that the Obama administration would aim to bring Ebola patients into the United States for treatment within the first days of a diagnosis, and that it's not clear who'd pay either for the transportation or the treatment. Well, it's no mystery to me. We the people are going to pay for it. Now
let's go back. Hang on a second. Let's go back to what I said earlier. Why does Obama want to bring non-Americans into the country for treatment?
Go ahead.
Well, because we have the best healthcare system. So if we have the best healthcare system, how is it that it's among the worst and needs to be fixed with Obamacare?
Well, remember,
everything about the left is a contradiction. Everything.
Well, and remember, he thinks of it as his healthcare system now, since it's got his name.
Oh, it's fixed now because Obamacare is in place. It was the worst. Now it's the best because of Obamacare. I got you.
Wayne Allen Root the other day in one of his YouTube channel videos just laid it out. He said the purpose of this is classic Cloward-Piven strategy. Overload the system, reduce what's left of the U.S. economy to absolute ashes, bring about the economic destruction of the United States for fundamentally transformative purposes. Now, let me just point something out. How much did you see how much Thomas Eric Duncan's treatment for Ebola cost the state of Texas or whatever?
Yeah, I saw the numbers, but I don't remember what it was.
$500,000. Do some multiplication. I went back and asked the question. I Googled this morning. I said, how many Americans died in the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic? Well, that turned out to be about 20 million. Now, there were a lot more Americans who came down with the Spanish flu. The 20 million is just the ones who died. But let's just go with that. If there were 20 million cases of Ebola in the United States, and the cost of treating each case was $500,000, that would be a price tag of $10 trillion. Two-thirds of our current two-thirds of our current annual gross domestic product, 2.5 times the annual federal budget. Now let's be optimistic. Let's say there's only 1 million cases. Well, that only cost $500 billion. Don't you feel better? And anybody who thinks that there isn't a Cloward-Piven angle on this just has not been paying attention. I mean, it costs a fortune to try to treat and slow down an epidemic. It costs way, way less to prevent Ebola from getting into the country in the first place, and Barack Obama will not do that. And we already talked about why. Yeah, the amnesty angle, the Cloward-Piven angle. I mean, it gets back to why is his Ebola czar a political operative? Because it's all about politics. It's all about enhancing his power, giving him even more despotic, unconstitutional power than he has already. It's not about treating the disease. It's not about keeping America safe and Americans healthy. It isn't.
Yeah, well, it's never been about what's best for the country. It's always been about what's best for the agenda for these people. That's how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and they think it'll never...
it's like my old saying, what's the answer to the question? Whatever benefits Obama the most at the moment.
And they don't think it will touch them. I mean, does it seem to you that Barack Obama believes he can fine-tune the number of Ebola cases inflicted on Americans so that he can further enhance his power without the contagion getting completely out of control and combusting his fundamental transformation mission?
Well, absolutely. Why not? He's been able to manipulate the unemployment numbers.
Or
the Ebola numbers ought to be easy.
Or is combusting the entire U.S. economy the whole point? And he believes that somehow none of it would touch him or his regime or his party. Because he's the master of all reality, remember? He says it, and that becomes reality.
Right.
He thinks.
All right. Story number 3. Story number 3, and which is really not the third most important story, but I put it as number 3, so it would be right behind story number 2. Because there is a connection.
It does kind of fit, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Story number 3, Vice President Biden's son kicked out of the Navy for cocaine use.
Now, actually, this took place back in February. We're only finding out about this 9 months later. Hunter Biden, Vice President Joe Biden's second oldest son, joined the United States Naval Reserve a year ago. And by the way, he never went to the United States Naval Academy. He was given a slot in the Naval Reserve through some drive or program or promotion to bring professionals into the Navy. And of course, he went to he got a public relations job, naturally. There's no nepotism involved in here, is there?
No.
And of course, it also bears pointing out that he got a special waiver in order to be admitted to the United States Naval Reserve based on a previous drug incident wasn't necessarily all that recent. It was years ago when he was a lot younger, but they gave him a waiver. His dad put in a good word for him, ran interference for him, and so Hunter Biden gets into the United States Naval Reserve, and then, of course, you might say had a relapse. Tested positive for cocaine, and now 9 months later, it finally comes out. And he's so embarrassed. Yeah, well, he was embarrassed when he got caught, basically, and now he's gotten caught.
That's a very good point. That also attaches to story number 2. And the other part of this story is, when you are in the public eye, you're expected to carry carry yourself at a higher standard. And when Dad's in the public eye, you still are attached to that, first of all. Second of all, the average citizen, they don't think very deeply. Their first thought is, I wonder if he was high when he was out to sea. I wonder if he was high when he was doing this or doing that. Suddenly, he may have been high at all times. Who knows? And if he got it, where did he get the idea from, or that tendency from, or that sometimes the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree? I'm not saying that that's the truth. I'm saying that that's what some people out there will think on the surface, because that's the way people think.
Well, Rogaine rhymes with cocaine, and everybody knows that Rogaine is. Everybody knows that Rogaine is a gateway drug. In fact, you even
Rogaine,
look at.
I saw that you had written that, but it's just funny hearing it out of your mouth. Rogaine rhymes with cocaine, so.
Well, in fact, you look at
a gateway drug.
I mean, he's 40. Hunter Biden is 44 years old, and I really think he's already gotten hair plugs because the top of his head, aside from the hair color, looks exactly like his dad's.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
In any sense of the of course, I was going to say in any sense of the term, but Joe Biden's loopiness he comes by genetically, so I guess Hunter didn't even really need cocaine.
Yeah, well, we haven't heard Hunter talk yet. We don't know how bad it is yet. Of course, we may not have heard him talk because his foot's already in his mouth like his dad's. Story number 2, and this has been the big story for me. This is something that they're starting to talk about even nationally because this person became the face of this town last July. Marietta Mayor Alan Long arrested for a DUI injury accident. Story number 2. And now, let me open it up with this. First of all, I ran against Alan Long back in 2010 for City Council. I know the man. I spent time with him. He's a good person. I think he's a very good guy. I wrote an article that basically said when good people do bad things. I get it. You're a good person. You're a wonderful person. But the thing is, you made your bed.
Yeah.
You did it. And I've been criticized because I've been kind of harsh on him with my articles. But I've been really criticized. One of the people who's criticized me actually is someone who I'm in touch with who's a part of the Rick Amato team. He's in the production and reporting part of it, and he's been very critical of me. And and he says, well, that's not very good reporting. You went after the guy. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not a reporter. I'm an opinion writer. First of all, second of all, if I'm trying to, build notoriety for what I do, and I've got the opportunity to be one of the sites that first breaks that story, damn straight I'm going to jump all over it. That all said, I'm probably going to do this on the conservative Constitution Radio show with Douglas B. Gibbs on KCAA as well. But I want to present these also on this show because I thought that one of these statements was at the height of ridiculous defense, and the other one is insightful, very insightful and also thought-provoking. And what I'm referring to are the statements put out by fellow city council members Harry Ramos and Rick Gibbs. Now, Rick Gibbs, I found his on another site. Harry Ramos sent me his press release, and he sent it to me first. So his press release showed up on Political Pistachio before any other website. Now, that said, now that I've kind of set the table here, and understand, Harry Ramos is the mayor pro tem. And he's, and right now he's the newest member, aside from the appointee when Kelly Bennett stepped down, of the Marietta City Council. I've known Harry for a few years. He's the lone, in my opinion, the lone conservative, true conservative on the council. And by the way, I wanted to say something real quick too. I'm very angry about. I'm laughing but angry at the same time about that Arizona picture you put on the. That just makes my shorts buckle. But anyway, here's what Harry Ramos.
There's a mental image I could do without.
All right, here's Harry Ramos' statement about Mayor Alan Long's DUI and car accident. We'll go into the details about what happened in a moment. But I wanted to open this up with Harry Ramos and Rick Gibbs' responses so we kind of get both sides right off the bat, and then we could talk about it. On October 16th at 2:0018. What? On October at 2018. He meant to put the. Oh, that's the time. Okay. At 2018. It's 8:18 p.m. Okay, I forget. Right. Harry was a Marine. On October 16th at 2018, Mayor Alan Long was arrested for 23153A of the California Vehicle Code, driving while under the influence, causing injury. My thoughts and prayers go out to the 4 kids who were injured, by the way, which were all female, and especially for the girl who is still in the hospital. I cannot begin to express my disbelief, disappointment, and embarrassment of this situation. While I am always a strong supporter of due process I have the utmost respect and faith in our justice system. The known facts cannot be ignored or excused. Under no circumstance should a mayor ever make a decision to get into a car while under the influence. I am especially critical of Mayor Long because he is a first responder and knows firsthand the tragic consequences of drinking and driving. He's a fire captain, Mayor Long is. I want to be clear. I do believe Mayor Alan Long is an honorable man, but even honorable men can make terrible decisions that could last a lifetime. I truly hope Mayor Long, in reflection, seriously considers the negative impact this is having on our city and is coming to the decision to resign. Moving forward, we must come together as a community and support not only the children who were injured, but their family and classmates. As parents, we must not let this opportunity pass to teach our children the dangers and ramifications of drinking and driving. Now, here's what Rick Gibbs had to say. And he spoke to Alan, so he's referring to his conversation with Alan Long after all of this transpired. He said his breathalyzer was under the legal limit, but he was involved in an accident where alcohol was involved, so the police did what they're supposed to do. They arrested him. Alan got out of the car and helped the others over to the curb. Then he called police. I think we ought to wait and see what happens in the legal process after the results are back from the lab. We should remember that anyone who is arrested is innocent until proven guilty. I've known Alan a long time. I appointed him to the Planning Commission on 2 different occasions. I've been with him at probably 50 social events, and I've never seen him take a drink. Rick Gibbs continued by adding, Alan Long grew up in this community. He served for 25 years here. He's a fine mayor who's done a lot of good work here. He said he was not intoxicated, and I am more than willing to take his word for it that he was not intoxicated. But the police followed procedure and took him into custody. We'll have to see what happens in the legal process. Okay, so now those are your statements. Those are your basic upfront, whatever from the people around him. Now, all of that said, here's what basically happened. Is 8/18, he was driving his pickup truck. He rear ended a vehicle which had 4 teenage girls in it, ages between 14 and 17. As one of Mayor Long's cheerleaders pointed out, in California, someone under 18 cannot be driving around other people that are under 18.
Mm-hmm. Same thing in Washington, yeah.
Okay, so the kids were driving illegally, and my response is that doesn't change the fact that the mayor was driving around with alcohol in his system and caused an accident and injured those people. Whether or not they should have been on the road is not the point. The fact that he should have been on the road it is. Now, that said, it was an intersection of Jefferson and Lilly, which is not a busy area, and it's not too far from City Hall. But it's not a real busy area. There's a lot of apartments in that area, that kind of thing. The injury traffic collision was caused by Mr. Long, who was driving a full-size truck, bigger pickup truck, and when he collided the rear of the passenger vehicle, the injured minors were all Murrieta Valley High School students. And the injuries originally were described as being from moderate to major. 3 of the girls now have been released. They're okay. The 4th girl is still in the hospital. She's apparently the one with a major injury. Alan Long was then arrested for driving while under influence causing injury. He was booked at the Southwest Detention Center in Murrieta, which is just up the road from where I live. And he was released on a $50,000 bail early Friday morning. Now, that all said, going back to what I said earlier, I know the man. I know he's a good person. But what was he thinking? I feel bad for him. He's probably destroyed his political career. He's probably put his job as a fire captain in jeopardy. And I'm sure that there's not exactly harmony in the Long household once he walked through that front door. But even more so is we're in election season, and he's running for re-election. There are other candidates that are connected to him. Incumbent Rick Gibbs, which we read earlier, a statement defending Allen, and Ruth Ann Taylor Ginsburg. Kind of reminds me of Ginsburg. Berger, Ruth Ann Taylor Berger, who's a WR-COG sustainable development hack that's trying to get onto the city council so they can
by the way, folks, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that's West Riverside Council of Governments. It's a Agenda 21 Sustainable Development Scheme group.
Yeah, and it's a private company that sticks its nose into local politics basically, so that it can help the Riverside Conservation Authority land grab. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
Right.
Well, all three of those candidacies are put at risk by this, which does something that Myriad has never seen, aside from their very first election, and that is all elected candidates being on the council for the first time. In other words, it's going to be a challenger's heyday.
Well,
it's a great opportunity for the challengers.
Well, the thing that crosses my mind, the two things cross my mind. One is that public servants are held to a higher standard than rank-and-file citizens. It's just that simple. And if you're elected the mayor of your city, or whatever the office is, whether it's the local level, the state level, the federal level, when you are elevated to that position of responsibility, of prestige, of honor, and then you do something like this, and nobody's saying that Alan Long meant to do this. I mean, it was an accident. But he's responsible for the accident, and he's responsible for the consequences. And if I'll tell you what, now I'm a teetotaler. I have never imbibed alcohol in my life, but I was once in an automobile accident where, if not for the fact that there was a hedge in the median that I impacted with, I was driving a rental car at the time, I would have shot out into oncoming traffic. And the thing that happened in 2002, and the thing that I was most grateful and thankful to God for is for that hedge, because it was totally accidental. But if I had shot out into oncoming traffic and hurt somebody, I don't know how I would have lived with that. And I sure as hell would not have. If I were in Alan Long's position, I sure as hell would not. I would already have resigned. I couldn't continue running for re-election with that on my conscience, on my mind. There's just no way. So I don't see why he hasn't already resigned. I mean, because you pointed out, it's not just that his political career has been destroyed, but his vocation as a fire captain that's probably done. That's probably done. There's going to be a lot of things that are now going to command his attention that have nothing to do with politics.
And my wife, I think, resembles the average voter out there quite well, and she put it best. She says now, because of this, and this may or may not be true, but regardless, I wonder this: how many times did he have alcohol in his system when he's on the dais there at the city council? How many times has he been on duty as a fighter, inebriated? I don't know. And like she said, he probably never had, but it puts those doubts in her mind as a voter. And her final words was, "I've lost all respect for the man."
2 words: public trust, and that is what that impacts. Because you have to ask these questions, and they're not unreasonable questions. It's not accusing Alan Long of being drunk all the time, being the Foster Brooks of Marietta. It's not, but it's you have to ask that question. If he did it once, how many other times was that the case? And he just nothing happened. He got lucky, and Thursday night his luck ran out. We don't know, but that's the trust that's been forfeited.
Right, exactly. And like I said, he's a good guy. I mean, good people do bad things, but it's going to impact things. And as Harry Ramos said, this is a life-changing situation. This will change his life and other lives forever.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. I mean, and everybody out there, I had my Alan Long update theme to start the show, and I had a little fun with that. But in all seriousness, pray for Alan Long and his family, and for the families of the teenage girls that were injured in this accident, because like you just got through saying, and like Harry Ramos said, all of their lives have already been changed and will remain changed profoundly for a long time to come.
Right, absolutely. And hearing that statement, of all the city council members, Harry Ramos is the one I respect the most, and you can see why. And I'm actually planning on calling him right after we get done with the show to see if I can get him on our program to talk about this a little bit after the Ben Carson representative. And I got a confirmation last night and this morning. They will be there. This is our third try on the Ben Carson group. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can get...
I just knocked on wood, so...
Yeah, there you go. But I am going to also see if I can get Harry on the show to talk about this, because... and ask him if he's heard, Rick Gibbs's response and what he thought of that and all of those things. So for those of you who want to know more about what happened to Marietta, directly after Book of the Week, Constitution Question, I'm going to tell everybody, you want to hear the big, however many stories, go to American Daily Review. There's one story we're going to spend a lot of time with, two stories actually we're going to spend a lot of time on this morning or this afternoon. It's going to be the Marietta mayor and story number one. And that said, let's talk about story number one before we run out of time, so I have time to call Harry Ramos, see if I can get him on my show.
All right.
Story number one, the Basic Constitution went on sale yesterday. So my book is out there now. It's available. It's on sale. I should get my copies of it by the 30th. I paid for the cheap mail, so it'll take a while. So I don't have a copy myself yet, but for those of you, it is available on CreateSpace right now. It'll be available on Amazon within the next 2 to 4 days, 3 to 5 days, something like that. So in other words, by midweek, you should be able to get on Amazon as well. And the booklet, the workbook that goes along with it should be available by this time next week. So I'm pretty jazzed about this. A lot of work went into this. It's definitely a substantive book. It reads like a textbook. Yes,
it does.
Engineered like a textbook, but yet it is written in a manner that I think most people will be able to understand it. Now, you will notice, Jasmine, there are a handful of changes, little ones that you may or may not have noticed. For example, in the very first section before the preamble, between history and preamble, I added a section on political spectrum, which I felt was important. Things like that. So you'll notice little differences and little additions like that. But for the most part, I had 6 people go through it, and plus I went through it, again myself, and of course I noticed things, and also where the most work came on, I thought would be the index. But after I finished the index, I had realized I had not cross-referenced my glossary with my index to make sure all of the glossary words were also listed in the index. And boy, did that get interesting and fun.
Yeah, I noticed as I was doing, I was one of the 6 editors, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to have been able to put make a little bit of contribution toward the publication of this very, very timely and important book. But I did notice that because I recognized vocabulary words when I saw them. They were in bold print. But I did notice that there wasn't a one of the appendices was not a glossary. So that's now been a
glossary. A glossary got created. Also, the glossary words are not bolded every time they show up, but usually in places where it was either very important or they were described, or so on and so forth. But the glossary is actually quite extensive, to be honest with you. The indexes as well. But the only thing that happened was when I sent it to print, I noticed on their copy online that there's a space between a couple of the words that's bigger than it should be on the very first page of the index, and it's not that way on my Word. So I don't know how it happened. I don't know how to fix it. And so, but my attitude was, if that's my only complaint in the whole book, it's a good thing. So, you know, so if you can handle the fact that there's a space, I think it's right after affirmation in the index. It looks like someone hit the space bar, or not space, but the return 3 times, and then started on the next one. So there's this blank area. But aside from that, it came out exactly as I wanted. I just love the cover. It took some thinking. I wanted it to be simple, yet really kind of catch your attention. And so I spent a lot of time on it. I really am happy how everything turned out, and I'm very excited about the book. I got an email yesterday from someone that said, "Hey, when you get the books, I'll take 5." I said, "Okay." So that's a good thing. But and there's a lot of other things going on right now. It head in a good direction, a great direction. I'm also having some fun with other things too. Something you and I could talk about later has to do with back pain and truck driving companies. But it's getting very interesting. That all said, we've got just a few minutes before. It's rare that we take this show all the way to KCAA's show. But I think it was worth it. I think it's a good thing because the Marietta Mare is such an important topic that I'm glad we spent a lot of time on all these other issues, all these other stories. And basically what I'm going to do is when it comes to the big stories of the week, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to name them, and I'm serious. I'm going to go through the list. Nobody say anything. And then we're going to go straight to Mayor Alan Long and the book, because I think those are the 2 things we really need to talk about today on KCAA. This is a local show with a global footprint. This is a big local story which has a global footprint.
Huge local story.
Absolutely. No, yeah. And I'll leave you with this. As my friend said the other day, it's almost like a script got written. I mean, the timing couldn't have been more incredible.
Hey, it was happening right as you and I were talking on the phone Thursday evening, as a matter of fact. That's the first thing I thought of. You never know what's coming down the pike, do you? Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, it happened after this guy became the national face of Marietta and before the election. What timing? I mean, that's incredible.
Constitution Radio is next to KCAAradio.com. Join us.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Good afternoon. KCAA News Time is 2 p.m., and it's currently 76 degrees in San Bernardino. Taking a look at traffic on the 15 northbound at Weirwick Road. The accident has been cleared, but expect heavy traffic from before Indian Truck Trail. Also in Corona, we have a report of a vehicle on fire at State Route 71 before the 91. And there's stop-and-go traffic in Ontario on the 15 northbound near the 60 freeway. And that's a look at traffic. Keep it tuned here. Coming up in just a minute is Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, live and local from our studio in San Bernardino. And then at 3 is an encore presentation of The Dave Levine Show on the station that leaves no listener behind, AM 1050 KCAA. Listen or watch online at kcaaradio.com.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Rod Tanner. Well, this afternoon, skies will gradually clear. Expect a high of 79. We'll have increasing cloudiness overnight with a low of 59. Sunday, mostly cloudy skies will gradually become sunny. We'll wrap up the weekend with a high of 82. We'll have increasing cloudiness Sunday night with a low of 61. Cloudy skies through Monday morning will gradually clear in the afternoon with a high of 81. Tuesday, look for patchy fog through the morning. Otherwise, mostly cloudy skies will gradually become sunny with a high of 81. That's your weather forecast for this hour from the station that leaves no listener behind. NBC News Radio, AM 1050 KCAA.
Here's a look at the KCAA Community Calendar. I'm Mark Westwood. Youth Hope Incorporated is a non-profit corporation in Redlands that works to provide shelter, clothing, and feed homeless youth in the Redlands area. Provides basic life advisement services and a host of special other needs for our youth. Like everything, this takes money, and this dedicated organization has a constant need to fundraise to feed so many growing young people. Consider supporting Youth Hope Incorporated on their latest quest for funding by attending a very fun event on October 23rd, a hair fashion show through the decades. This fun and fashionable event will take you through the years as the Evans team showcases their stylish work while their models hit the runway. The event will include a silent auction, raffle, giveaways, appetizers and desserts, a no-host bar, and dancing. Fashion Through the Decades takes place Thursday, October 23rd at 6 p.m. at the Fox Event Center in Redlands. Tickets are just $40. For more info, you can go to youthhope.org. And that's a look at your KCAA Community Calendar. I'm Mark Westwood.
Go ahead and say it. We're all ears. AM 1050 KCAA.
Everyone knows Moreno Valley needs jobs. It's one of the top issues candidates bring up. But do they really have a plan for doing so? Hi, I'm Deborah Craig, and I'm running for the District 2 Moreno Valley City Council seat. I have a plan, a vision, and a mission for bringing jobs to our city and making Moreno Valley a first-rate community. To learn more, go to my website, morenovalleyfirst.org. Vote for Deborah Craig. It's time we stop fighting and start working together to bring the jobs and revenue that Moreno Valley needs. Paid for by Deborah Craig for City Council 2014.
The Weather Channel unveils its Las Vegas casino. It's the Onion Radio News. This is Doyle Redland reporting. Cable TV giant The Weather Channel announced plans today to bring the excitement of flood watches and tornado warnings to Las Vegas by opening the world's first weather-themed casino. The Grand Advisory will be the first gaming facility ever to allow patrons to bet on the outcome of the weather in major cities across the world. Weather Channel spokesperson Claude Bollinger.
Occasionally, a tornado or hurricane alert will sound, forcing customers to evacuate to a basement casino where they can continue gambling in safety.
Bollinger went on to say that the Grand Advisory hopes to sign singer Celine Dion to an exclusive long-term contract despite her legendary fear of sleet. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is Dick from Carpet Masters. Carpet Masters has been serving the Inland Empire for over 55 years. Carpet Masters uses extraction cleaning for your carpet because there's no better cleaning to remove the soil from your carpet. All of our furniture cleaning is done by hand in your home or in our plant. Carpet Masters also offers dry cleaning for fine furniture. Call Carpet Masters at 793-7215. That's 793-7215 for Carpet Masters.
Hi, this is Bob with Real Estate Talk with Bob and Randy. Tune in every Thursday afternoon from 3 until 4 at KCAA Radio 1050, and we will be there to answer your real estate questions, the latest real estate news, and to talk to the leaders of the real estate industry. Our Real Estate Talk, you can find out how to stop your foreclosure, first-time homebuyer information, loan modifications, different kinds of loans you can buy with, short sale strategies, and real estate investing and more. So don't forget, tune in every Thursday afternoon at 3 for Real Estate Talk with Bob and Randy. You'll be glad you did.
KCAA Radio, AM 1050. Hey, tell a friend, AM 1050.
And welcome, Constitutional Radio, right here on KCAA AM 1050. Such a pleasure to have you on the program with us, everybody. Listening, should I say. We will have someone on the program. Before we bring on the guest, I wanted to go over a couple things here. We've had some really interesting breaking stories going on locally here. So normally we go through the big stories of the week after the book of the week and after the Constitution Quest question of the week. But what we're going to do this week is because earlier on a internet show, Jasmius and I went through all of the big stories of the week, and we went through all of them. So we're going to refer you, if you want to hear the commentary on all of the stories of the week, to go to that podcast later to hear that. Now, I'll mention what all the stories are later on in the show, but we're going to spend most of our time on story 2 and 1, because story number 2 is this huge local issue. The mayor of Murrieta, Alan Long, who became the face of Murrieta with those immigration protests last July, Thursday night was arrested.
I thought that was you. I thought you were the face of Murrieta.
Well, no, I'm the face of the Inland Empire. Get it right. But anyway, Alan Long.
How'd you get your head through the door?
Yeah, really. Yeah, funny. But anyway, so it was a DUI, and he injured 4 girls, teenage girls between the ages of 14 and 17. 3 of them been released from the hospital. 4th one is still in a major condition, not critical necessarily, but not necessarily minor. And it's been a hot topic, a hot issue, political pistachio. We've went over this quite a bit, and we're going to talk about it today, right here on this radio show. So, after our interview with our guest, after the book of the week, and after the Constitution Quest question of the week, we're going to talk about that issue. Now, might I remind you real quick now also, Constitution Quest question of the week, brought to you by the Constitution Quest game, constitutionquest.com. That game, if you want 20% off of each game you buy, you can even buy more than one, but you want 20% off. It was 10%, now it's 20%. 20% off up until November 2nd. 20% off up until November 2nd. Go to constitutionquest.com to purchase the game and enter my name, Doug, D-O-U-G, in the coupon box, the primary coupon. I can't remember what it's called, coupon code, something like that. Put Doug, D-O-U-G, capital D-O-U-G, into that box. You will get 20% off the price. That's $10 off the price. It's a $50 game. You'll get it for $40. So that's only good till November 2nd. It's a great Christmas idea. And that all said, our guest today is from, this is huge. Now we had an opportunity to have him on, someone from this group on a couple weeks ago, and just schedules didn't work out, and that's okay. But we have a representative now from this group today. The group is the National Committee for Ben Carson for President. And I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this right. Bill Saraceno. Bill, you're on the air. Welcome to the show. Yeah, we got nothing. There we go.
This is Bill Saraceno with the Draft Ben Carson for President Committee.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay.
I thought you were going to call me.
No, we got a phone number to call you, and we did, and thought we had you on hold. And then suddenly you called again.
Well, I don't know who you have on hold, but it's not me, because I been waiting for the call and it didn't ring. That's why I just called you.
Yeah, that's funny because my engineer said, "Yeah, I got your guest," and was on hold, and now that person just hung up.
He answered the bill.
He answered the bill. Wow, interesting.
All's well that ends well.
Yeah. Maybe there was one number off on the phone number. Well, it all worked out. Yeah, it's great having you on the show. Now, you're involved with the Run, Ben, Run campaign, this committee to get Ben Carson to run for president. And there's a lot of people who heard about you guys being on the show that were pretty jazzed about it. Ben Carson, if anything, creates excitement around people, and I think it's a large part of it is because he's not a politician, and that means he's willing to say things that and go after the truth in ways that politicians are just not willing to do. But there's even more appeals than that, and we'll discuss all that. But one of the first things I wanted to talk about with you, and of course I want you to fully introduce yourself, what you do for the committee and all that. But after you do all that, just answer, gosh, have you experienced this where Ben Carson's name gets mentioned and just excitement kind of rings up around the room?
Well, you are exactly right about the excitement and that this man creates. And I've been in politics a long time, since the Reagan years, and Reagan ran for president. And other than Reagan, I cannot think of another candidate or potential candidate who has created the kind of buzz and excitement among people that Carson is doing. And I think you hit it right on the head. One of the reasons is that he is not a politician. Some folks try and spin that as a negative. They say, well, he's never held elective office. My answer to that is exactly right, and that's a good thing, given the political climate currently in America.
Now, what is your? Well, let's describe National Committee for Ben Carson for President. Is that the proper way to say it?
Well, the actual formal name is the National Draft Ben Carson for President Committee.
Okay. Now, how are you associated?
We abbreviate that to Run, Ben, Run. It's less of a mouthful.
Yeah, there you go. And how are you part of that group? What's your part?
I am the National Communications Director, as well as the director for the political director for the 15 Western states, which is basically from Colorado, everything west to Alaska and Hawaii.
Okay. Now, other than the fact that he's appealing, he's not a politician, and he's willing to say things like, well, Obama's not king, on national TV, and then embarrass the president, and then the media freak out. Oh, how could you talk that way to the man? Well, he's not king. I loved that, by the way. That was great. But aside from all of that, why Ben?
I think what there are so many aspects to the Carson appeal. One of them, of course, the main driver of his notoriety was 2 years ago at the National Prayer Breakfast, where he had the courage to say that the emperor doesn't have any clothes. He told the truth about Obamacare without any of the typical political weasel words or ifs or ands or maybes or wherefores. He just lays it out. He tells it like it is, but he does so in a very calm, soothing way that doesn't sound the least bit mean-spirited, that is not off-putting to most people unless you're a dedicated liberal. And his message and his means, the way he delivers it, I think are two very, very strong points for him.
Listeners, you're listening to Constitutional Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs on KCAA AM 1050, rebroadcast on KCXL in Kansas City, WHTH in Youngstown, Ohio. And we are on the phone with a member of the Run, Ben, Run committee. And listeners, if you want to ask a question, or do you want Ben Carson to run? Yes, no, why or why not? Give us a call, 888-909-1050, 888-909-1050. I would love to hear from you and for you to join this conversation. I'm not even sure what to call him. Dr. Carson, Ben Carson, because I have so much respect for the man. I want to give him the proper salutation, yet he comes across in a way where he says, just call me Ben.
Well, exactly. I mean, his if you're going to be technically correct about it, of course, it's Dr. Carson, but he is such an unassuming gentleman that I'm sure it's just, call me Ben. He doesn't stand on protocol at all. Of course, he was a pediatric neurosurgeon most of his career, and running the neurosurgery department at Johns Hopkins, one of the best hospitals in the world. So he's used to dealing with young people. He's used to dealing with children, and has what used to be called a bedside manner that is very, very relaxed and very, very endearing to most people who hear him or meet him.
Now, my co-host that's sitting next to me, Alex Ferguson, has had some great things to say about Ben, just loves Dr. Carson. On the same token, he has some of the concerns that we were mentioning earlier, and so I wanted Alex to come on here with us and kind of break that down for us. Because you're very much so typical of a lot of the folks out there, Alex, that they love Ben, absolutely love him, but there's that but in there. So go ahead, Alex.
Well, I hate to be put in a position of devil's advocate, because this is a particular angel that I support 150%. Dr. Carson has demonstrated to the nation that he's got all the right answers, and he's shown that he can be a neurosurgeon. How smart do you have to be to do that? Do you have to be smarter than a neighborhood organizer to be a neurosurgeon? I'm not sure, but if it weren't for the old game they play with what kind of experience do you have, what kind of resume do you have, I would support him, as I say, 150%.
So your concern is simply the lack of experience in the political.
I want to be wrong, but the game is played the way the game is played, and he's gonna walk into a mud wall for not having had office experience.
Well, I think though that among the political class and the political media class, you're exactly right. That is something they're going to use. But among the average voter out there, they are sick and tired of the political establishment in both parties. And one thing Carson's lack of experience allows him to say is essentially, you know what? There was a train wreck in Washington, D.C. My fingerprints are not on it. Everyone else who's running for office has their fingerprints on this train wreck in one way or another. Not me. I'm coming from a point of view of running a very complicated organization, the neurosurgery department at Johns Hopkins, and I know how to run an organization from an executive point of view. But what is more important than that, what is needed in Washington, D.C., is common sense and the ability to express that common sense in a way that the average American can understand and agree with. And I think Carson, all those things describe Carson. And yes, his lack of experience will be thrown at him, but I think it is something that can be turned to his advantage fairly easily.
Well, I am heartsick for my nation that people would still be talking in terms of supporting the Democrats and Obama after the corruption and the incompetence and the lies and the graft and the failure. Elmer Fudd should be able to beat any of these Democratic contenders, and yet the left has gained such power in manipulating public opinion in America that everything is upside down and inside out. It just breaks my heart.
Well, it's as I said, I've been in politics for a long, long time, and the situation right now, and as you just described it very accurately, reminds me of 1979, when my home state former governor by the name of Ronald Reagan was getting ready to run against Jimmy Carter, and the one good thing Obama has done for Jimmy Carter is that he made it that Jimmy Carter's no longer our worst president. Obama is now, by far. Yeah,
and if you read the news, even Jimmy Carter now is starting to criticize Obama.
That's right. But if folks remember, if folks remember back to 1979, or if they read history of 1979. Gasoline prices were out of control. We had the hostage crisis. We had the Soviet Union and communism on the march around the world. I mean, things were a mess. People were despairing, as you just said, the despair for our country. But then a former governor, whose only experience was 8 years as governor, but who knew what to do, knew how to express the will of the American people, came along and got elected twice in a landslide.
Well, you can't discount the gravitas, the personal relationship between Reagan and the American people that I think Dr. Carson could also evoke. It seems...
Well, he does command that kind of.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, Reagan's famous debate comeback to Carter, when Carter said something just outrageous about Reagan toward the end. Reagan looked at him and sort of chuckled and said, "Well, there you go again." And that resonated with the American people because they knew Ronald Reagan agree with all of his positions or not. Was a decent man who said what he thought. That is how, when they get to know Ben Carson, they will come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, we're on a break, so let me say this real quick. Yet, like Ben Carson, the political class said Reagan couldn't win. He was too conservative. He was too this. He was too that. He's just an actor. The political class poo-pooed the idea of Ronald Reagan even having a chance to win. In fact, he lost in 76. He lost the Republican nod. Now, that said, folks, 888-909-1050, 888-909-1050. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think about Ben Carson as president. Is that a good idea, or is it a problem? Now, Ben is going to run, if he runs, and this is the point where you guys are trying to convince him to, if he were to run, I would assume it'd be on the Republican ticket. Because we really don't want the third-party candidate deal going on, splitting votes and all that. But listeners, I want you to call in. I want to know what your opinion is. 888-909-1050. We'll be right back.
KCAA.
What's your constitutional IQ? Your quest to learn the Constitution can be fun for the whole family. Learn about the Constitution as you play the Constitution Quest board game. Learn more at constitutionquest.com.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Tired of the lies? Come here for the truth. Douglas V. Gibbs on KCAA 1050 AM.
The true patriots of All-Star Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by All-Star Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
The most diversified radio station on the dial, AM 1050 KCAA.
And welcome back, Constitutional Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs right here on KCAA AM 1050 San Bernardino. We are the Inland Talk Express. All right, 888-909-1050 if you want to join the conversation. We have Bill Saraceno on the line with us, representing the Run Ben Run National. See, spell it out for us. The National Committee.
The committee's official name is the National Draft Ben Carson for President Committee.
And so you're trying to draft Ben Carson. Is he in touch with you, or is this outside?
Well, no, actually, because he is not a candidate, we are qualified. We are defined by the Federal Election Commission as an independent committee, and therefore we really cannot have any direct contact with him.
Okay.
So what we're doing totally is on our own, getting people to sign our petition urging him to run. We've been in existence for 14 months. We have just about 400,000 names on petitions urging him to run. Our goal is 1 million by the end of the year, and we think if we do that he is going to run. And to answer a question you posed just before the break about would he run as a Republican, he's made it clear that absolutely he'd run as a Republican. He has no interest in third-party nonsense at all.
All right, and now, has there been any indication from his side at all? Has he mentioned at all that he's considered it? What's Dr. Carson's feeling about the presidential candidacy?
We can only judge by his public comments, and it's been a very interesting and for us encouraging metamorphosis in the last 6 or 8 months. That from I don't know, I don't really want to do it. Gosh, I just retired. To saying, well, if enough of the American people say they want me to run, I've got to listen to that. And now his most recent comments on Sean Hannity's show and on a cup to the Wall Street Journal was that he is getting closer to running. A reporter a couple of weeks ago said on television, "It sounds to me like you're getting ready to run." Carson looked at him and he said, "Well, you may be right." And so we now none of the potential candidates, Christie, Rubio, Cruz, Paul, none of them are going to announce until next spring, next March or April. So we expect that is the timeline that Dr. Carson will use. And reading his body language and what he is saying now, we are very confident that if our committee can keep up the work of showing him that there are hundreds of thousands of Americans who want him to run, we're confident that next spring he will announce that he is going to run.
If my listeners wanted to sign that petition, be a part of it, how do they do that?
It's fairly simple. They go to a website, which is www.runbenrun, that's all one word, runbenrun.org, O-R-G. And right on that website, at the top of the page, there will be a little link that says sign the petition. They click on that, and they can sign the petition online, and they will be counted.
All right, fantastic. Aside from what he has said on Obamacare and his willingness to say the things to the Obama administration and to the president specifically about him without fear, aside from that, what is his position on an issue that has most impressed you?
Well, I think number one, I almost never make Ronald Reagan comparisons because there will never be a Ronald Reagan.
True.
But I worked in his campaigns for governor and all three of his campaigns for president, and I must say that what impresses me most about Carson is not any one issue. It is the Reagan-esque way he has of communicating conservative positions in ways that are easily understood and do not seem mean-spirited or threatening. Now, that said, to get back to try and answer your question, I think it's not a single issue. What impresses me most about him is his respect for the Constitution as it was written, not as liberal judges interpret it, but the Constitution as it is written and what the founders meant when they wrote it. I think calling Carson a constitutionalist is a very accurate term, and one of the reasons our country is in such dire straits now is that the current administration has just shredded the Constitution. They don't care what it says. The president will issue an executive order doing whatever the heck he wants, whether it's constitutional or not.
Right,
and
right.
We need to stop that. And the way to stop that is to get someone in office who is a constitutionalist. Carson is a constitutionalist, and I think that is probably the thing that impresses me most about him.
Well, as a teacher of the United States Constitution and a radio host with a show called Constitution Radio, I kind of like that answer.
That's right.
Yeah, keep my name in mind. So if he gets elected, he needs an advisor. I'm a true constitutionalist.
You got it. You got it.
But no, that is one of the things that has impressed me about the man is compared to most of the faces out there, he gets the Constitution in many ways better than most of them do. There's been times where I've wished he would clarify certain things more, but like I said, he's not necessarily a politician. He's not trying to win my heart. He's just saying what he believes is right. That said, final statement here from you. What is it that you want to put out to my audience most important when it comes to your cause?
The most important thing your audience can do is sign our petition, our Run Ben Run petition. As I said, we have over 400,000 signatures now. We want to get to 1 million by December 31st. And if they want to be part of that, they go to our website, which is runbenrun.org, and that first page that comes up right at the top of the page, there will be a link that says sign the petition. They click on that, they will be able to sign the petition online, and will be part of our effort. That is the best, most important thing they could do right now for us.
Bill, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you. Enjoy it. And, God bless the Constitution. You keep teaching.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And you keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks. Now, speaking of teaching the Constitution, here's the Book of the Week. Book of the Week just went on sale yesterday. The Basic Constitution by Douglas V. Gibbs. Yours truly. It's about a 350-page book, and it is everything you need to know about the Constitution. Everything. It is going to have a companion workbook out in about a week. Get the book now on CreateSpace. You can buy it for $19.99. It should be available on Amazon for just a tad less in the next couple days. I should have copies with me for those of you who are local and hear me speak at events and all that. I should have copies available within the next couple weeks. And Monday, I will be at an event in Hemet for the Hemet San Jacinto Republican Congress. I'll be speaking at that group at the Anchor Restaurant on Florida Avenue, East Florida Avenue. On Monday, I will have copies of the 25 Myths of the Constitution. If you would like to buy either book online, go to politicalpistachio.com, politicalpistachio.com. At the very top of the page, there are links for both books. And that said, now it's time for the Constitution Quest question of the week. Jasmius, how you doing, my friend?
Well, now that I can actually hear the program, I'm doing pretty good.
Now that you can hear the program? It wasn't working out earlier?
Nope.
No, and I can see you, too. Now, what's that God bless it hat you're wearing?
Oh, that's my Seahawks Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, it's like every time he's on there's got to be one of those mythical creatures on something, a hat or a shirt or something.
I heard they lost at home this season already.
Yeah, they did. They did. They passed the NFC torch to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, they got pounced. They didn't just lose; they got pounced.
Well, the score didn't indicate how lopsided it really was. Now they traded Percy Harvin, so who knows what's happening?
Yeah. Well, he hasn't exactly been productive outside the Super Bowl, but Super Bowl is where he shined.
Well, we got one.
All right. That all said. Yeah, if I would depress, I could just throw a complete depression across my entire audience. If
He already is. He sounds sad about his team.
Yeah, well, I am sad about my team, and I'm not even going to talk about it because it's that sad. I don't even want to put everybody else into that kind of sadness. Okay.
0-6?
Not yet.
Okay.
Working on 0-7 though.
Is it 0-6? I thought they were 0-5.
I don't think the Raiders have had their bye yet.
Yeah, they had their bye.
They did? Okay, well then they're working on 0-6 then.
Yeah. All right. Well, but after if now that you let the cat out of the bag, yes, I am an Oakland Raiders fan. All right, just lost like 2/3 of the audience.
I never miss a game. I never see one. I never miss it.
There you go. No. I love to watch all that kind of stuff, but it's not my priority. Politics and Constitution is my priority, so I actually miss a lot of these games because I'm writing or something, but I kind of keep track. But I did watch the game with the Chargers, and I don't believe in football and such things as moral victories, but if ever there was something that came close to a moral victory, that Raider loss to the Chargers was it. Derek Carr, that rookie quarterback, thrown to the Wolves, fifth an NFL game ever, and he threw 4 touchdown passes. The only reason why he lost is because he threw an interception on their what could have been their winning drive, and his fifth TD. So
that gives you and I one more thing in common. Both our teams have lost to the San Diego Chargers this year.
And since I live in a Charger zone, we may have brought back most of our audience just because of that statement. Okay, here's the
glad to serve.
All right, here's the Constitution Quest question of the week. Constitution Quest question of the week. This game card comes out of the Constitution Quest board game, which you can so it's called discount code. It really is. You looked it up?
That's what it says.
Okay, so if you put in the discount code when you buy this game, go to constitutionquest.com, put in the discount code Doug, D-O-U-G, my name, you will get 20% off. But it's only good until November 2nd, so do it now. Don't wait and then wish you would have done it. Do it now, constitutionquest.com. Buy your game, 20% off. Put my name in the discount code, Doug, D-O-U-G. Okay, now, here's the question. This is actually an easy one. I think that even Joe can get this one.
Even Joe.
Even Joe. In the U.S. Constitution, the militia refers to A, state police, B, armed, trained, able-bodied citizens, or C, regular standing army?
Gun nuts.
B it is. That's it. Jeez.
Sorry.
All right, go. What do you think, sir?
I think it's B, but I don't know how that switch around just happened.
Trust me, we'll explain it. Yes, miss.
Well, you can make B sound like anything, can't you?
Yeah, we sure can. Yeah, absolutely, it's B. A, state police. That's what you see in Hong Kong. C, C, regular standing army. That's what you see in Moscow. No, what we're talking about is B, an armed, trained, able-bodied citizens. These are people who have the right to keep and bear arms, better known as... Go ahead, Joe.
Gun nuts.
There you go.
Or otherwise known as unregulated militia.
Yeah.
Your entire audience.
My entire audience. Unregulated militia. What do you mean unregulated? They're regulated.
They're not just not well regulated.
They're well regulated. They're not regulated in the ways that we have thought of the term regulated. Regulated, in other words, meaning in good order. A militia that is in good order is a well-regulated militia. If it was a regulated militia in the way that the left wants us to believe that regulated means, then A and C would have been the correct answer. So there you go.
Is Joe's first name now Even? Even Joe?
Yeah.
I don't know, just wondering.
Am I supposed to reply to that?
I'm just asking.
Well, for years I always thought my name was Holy Cow. My parents every day, Holy Cow! Yeah? Okay. Sorry.
You don't want me to do my Bill Cosby impression, do you?
No, I don't. All right. Now we've got the many big stories. I'm going to go through them really quickly. I'm only going to read the title. I'm not going to stop and talk about them. If you want to hear what we had to say, our commentary, go to blogtalkradio.com/American Daily Review, featured American Daily Review Radio, where we talked about each and every one of these stories at length for 2 hours. And I don't usually stay on the full 2 hours, but we did, and it was well worth it. Here's the story. Story number 13, Hong Kong gets more violent. Story number 12, yes, there were WMD. Story number 11, unfair, and I put you fair, I don't know what's wrong with me. Unfair, exposing the I.R.S. Story number 10, black nationalism's influence in Ferguson. Story number 9, the disappearing, reappearing dictator. Obviously, that's the North Korean pudgy guy. Story number 8, General McInerney. That missing Malaysian plane is in Pakistan. Story number 7, Russian President Putin eyes Western advance. More specifically, the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Story number 6, lesbian Houston mayor demands delivery of pastor's sermons. You can draw conclusions there real easy. Number 5, Obama's Ebola Czar is unconstitutional and unreliable. I do want to actually add something real quick on that because I'm the Constitution guy. Unconstitutional. There is no congressional oversight. Remember, all officers of the United States are supposed to be confirmed by the Senate, czars or not. Story number 4, Ebola mess proves Obama's incompetence or designed unwillingness. Story number 3, Vice President Biden's son kicked out of Navy for cocaine use. Cocaine rhymes with Rogaine. Story number 2.
It is a gateway drug.
Story number 2 is a story we're going to be talking about next. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this. It's all about the Marietta mayor and his drunken accident. You don't want to miss this. We'll be right back.
KCAA.
Constitution or bust. Taking back America one listener at a time. Constitution Speaker Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs on KCAA 1050 AM.
The true patriots of All-Star Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by All-Star Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
A penny for your thoughts? Sorry, ideas are priceless. AM 1050 KCAA.
And welcome back, Douglas V. Gibbs, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs on KCAA AM 1050 San Bernardino. Soon to be carried also by the Liberty Tree Media Group. And we got all kinds of other good stuff going on. We got Constitution Study Television waiting in the wings. We're getting ready to start a Constitution series with that. And we got the basic Constitution is out. We mentioned that earlier, and we're going to mention it again in a little while. I'll explain why. So we've got all kinds of fun stuff talking about. But, I was just talking to Alex off the air because he was asking me, what about the WMD? So before we go into Mayor Long, let me tell you a little bit of what and Mr. Jasmius and I had talked about this earlier on American Daily Review, but let me, in a nutshell, in a real quick clip, explain, answer not only Alex's question, but all of you listeners. What do you mean a WMD in Iraq? Well, we have evidence that those WMD. Now, at the time, we knew that there was. We knew that if there weren't, that Mr. Saddam Hussein was working towards having the propensity to create WMD. He had some sort of it. He wanted to use them, so on and so forth. I've always believed that the WMD that were in Iraq at the time, once it was telegraphed that the American troops were coming, were moved over to Syria, and, well, Mr. Assad got a chance to use them at that time, I'm sure. But anyway, here's basically what the New York Times story did. It said, yeah, there's WMD. They got these chemical weapons, and American soldiers got sick from them during the Iraq War, and the Bush administration covered that up, covered up that the WMD were there, covered all this other, didn't say anything about it, hid it, and now we got ISIS in the area, and ISIS has now got their hands on this stuff, and so therefore the existence of ISIS and the existence of ISIS with these weapons of mass destruction is all Bush's fault because they covered up that they were there. That's essentially in a nutshell, without going into the details, what that all is. And your response, Alex, was what about contortions?
The logical contortions that these liberal Democrats go into to justify their positions make you physically ill.
Logical contortions. In other words, you're saying that the Democrats are a circus.
They're a freak show.
They're a freak show. All right. Now, that all said, story number 2, and this is one that Jasmius and I had a chance to talk about quite a bit earlier, and I definitely want a lot of that recounted. I think it's an important topic. And where did Jasmius go on the screen? He just vanished or something. Did we lose him? Are you still there, Jasmius? I think we just lost Jasmius, so we'll wait till he comes back. But I will open up what we were talking about on there we go, got Jasmius back there. I don't have that sound effect. You have to send it to me in the future, Mr. Jasmius. That one. Okay. Mayor Alan Long, who became the face of Marietta during the immigration protest. I mean, he was on national TV. He was the mayor of Marietta. He was all over the place. Good-looking guy. Fairly well-spoken and all that jazz. He became the face of Marietta, and we were very proud of him. That he did a fairly good job, better than we had thought he could accomplish. And now there's a re-election going on, and he's trying to win a re-election on the city council, not as mayor. The way our city is set up, it's a city. You're on the city council, and then every year the position of mayor kind of rotates around, and it's really a figurehead more than anything. And by the way, I wanted to get Harry Ramos on the program, and I just didn't get a chance to try to give him a call. He's on the city council. We'll try to get hold of him. Oh, you can't hear. Jasmius can't hear again. Good thing I'm looking at the screen. I'm looking at charades here. Oh, boy. He's having trouble hearing, so if we can get him back into gear. Something's going on with connection problems for poor Jasmius. Okay, anyway, while we're now trying to iron that out, here's what I want to do. I don't have Mr. Harry Ramos on the program. I wanted to give him a call. I just didn't get a chance. So what I want to do is read his statement regarding what happened with Mayor Alan Long and his accident. Because what happened was on Thursday night, Mayor Alan Long of Marietta was arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol and injuring others. And we'll discuss some of the counterclaims and all that as well. But I wanted to read first 2 statements, one by the Mayor Pro Tem, Harry Ramos, and then Rick Gibbs, who's I think the longest standing member on the council. Here's what Harry Ramos had to say. On October 16th at 8:18 p.m., Mayor Alan Long was arrested for driving while under the influence, causing injury. My thoughts and prayers go out to the 4 kids who were injured, and especially for the girl who is still in the hospital. I cannot begin to express my disbelief, disappointment, and embarrassment of this situation. While I am always a strong supporter of due process and have the utmost respect and faith in our justice system, the known facts cannot be ignored or excused. Under no circumstance should a mayor ever make a decision to get into a car while under the influence. I am especially critical of Mayor Long because he is a first responder and knows firsthand the tragic consequences of drinking and driving. I want to be clear. I do believe Mayor Alan Long is an honorable man, but even honorable men can make terrible decisions that could last a lifetime. I truly hope Mayor Long, in reflection, seriously considers the negative impact this is having on our city and is coming to the decision to resign. Moving forward, we must come together as a community and support not only the children who were injured, but their family and classmates. As parents, we must not let this opportunity pass to teach our children the dangers and ramifications of drinking and driving. Now, City Councilman Rick Gibbs, referring to a conversation he had with Alan Long afterwards, said this. He said his breathalyzer was under the legal limit, but he was involved in an accident where alcohol was involved. So the police did what they're supposed to do. They arrested him. Alan got out of the car and helped the others over to the curb. Then he called police, showing that, he's a good guy. He's an honorable man, I think, in that sense. I think we ought to wait and see what happens in the legal process after the results are back from the lab. We should remember that anyone who is arrested is innocent until proven guilty. I've known Alan for a long time. I appointed him to the Planning Commission on 2 different occasions. I've been with him at probably 50 social events. I have never seen him take a drink. Rick Gibbs continued by adding, Alan Long grew up in this community. He served for 25 years here. He's a fine mayor who's done a lot of good work here. He said he was not intoxicated, and I'm more than willing to take his word for it that he was not intoxicated. But the police followed procedure and took him into custody. We'll have to see what happens in the legal process. Now, my wife and I, when we were talking about this, she says to me, well, yeah, but, and it doesn't matter whether or not this is true or not, but as a citizen, my first thoughts are, has he had alcohol in his system on the dais there at the city council? Has he had alcohol in his system and been inebriated during duty as a firefighter? He may not have, and that may be complete, silly fictional conjecture, but nonetheless, these thoughts come to the voters' minds. And then her final statement was, I've lost all respect for the man. Alex, this is the first time you've heard about this. What's your first thought?
My thought is that what a tragedy. Here's a man on top of the world. Everything's going his way, and either circumstances combined beyond his ability to deal with it, or he made what seemed like a trivial small mistake, and the next thing you know, his life is turned upside down and perhaps virtually destroyed. I'm going to pray for him. I'm going to pray for his family, and I'm also going to pray for that little girl that's hurt. I think this is one of those situations where nobody's glad.
Right, exactly. 888-909-1050, 888-909-1050 if you'd like to call in and make a comment about this or discuss it or whatever your stance, because I've gotten emails of people supporting how I've handled my reporting of this. I'm an opinion writer, not a reporter, so of course I've put my opinion deep into my writings about this, and there's been some that have been very angry about how I've written about this, how I've handled it. You tell me, what do you think? 888-909-1050, and Jasmius, yeah, you're up there in the state of Washington, but because I live in Marietta, you've covered Marietta politics quite closely. You know exactly who Alan Long is. You watched him, on TV during the immigration protests, all that jazz. I mean, he's a good guy. He's this good-looking guy with his, political career, and he's a firefighter, and lovely wife, just perfect life, and then he makes this error. What's your thoughts?
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, first of all, Alan Long is not a monster. He didn't do this deliberately. It was an accident. But see, there is something that comes along with being elevated to a position like mayor of Marietta. I mean, this could be any political office, local level, county, state, federal, where, there's a biblical adage that to those, well, maybe I could just go to Ben Parker from Spider-Man, to those with great power are entrusted great responsibility.
Right.
And when you're elected to a position like that, a position of public trust, and then you make a mistake like this, it's not that Alan Long is a monster, but he made this mistake. Now people are going to have doubts, like you mentioned about what your wife said. How do we know? I mean, how do we know that he isn't intoxicated a lot of the time at city council meetings, on his job as a fire department official? How do we know? It violates the public trust, and it's for that reason alone that his political career is already destroyed. And frankly, I agree with Harry Ramos. He should resign because his life is going to have a lot of things commanding his attention apart from being mayor of Murrieta.
You know, and now we've got those people out there like Rick Gibbs who says, wait a second, let's pick this apart a little bit. And technically he wasn't drunk. Technically he was under, 0.7 or whatever it is. 0.07, is that what it is? Geez, I don't even know. I'm not a drinker, so I don't even know what this stuff is. But, I've got more fingers and beers I have a year. But the thing is, we're being told, wait a second, technically he was below the legal limit. Okay, let's say the lab results all come back. He was below the legal limit. Okay, technically it wasn't DUI. The family doesn't press charges. Everything's hunky-dory. Does the voter then, is the voter going to then say, oh, okay, that's the case. All right, fine, we're fine. Or
no.
So the damage has been done. He's made his bed, whether it was, 0.06, 0.07, whatever it was, the damage is done.
I'll say what Rick Gibbs has said is I think classic in terms of political spin, bringing up a point that nobody has made. Nobody has said that in this case Alan Long is not innocent until proven guilty. Nobody has disputed that. Nobody is arguing that against that. But that doesn't change what happened. That doesn't change the violation of the public trust. Even if he didn't technically violate that portion of the California code, it still doesn't change the fact that he did this and the public trust has been violated. So even if he doesn't go to prison, I mean, his political career is still done.
Oh yeah, well, his political career is done. His job maybe. I mean, he's a fire captain. I mean, he's a first responder. He should know better. And I'm sure that his wife's comments when he went through the front door this morning after being bailed out with $50,000 bail weren't exactly positive either. So it's going to influence his family. I mean, it influences everything, whether he was technically drunk or not. Alex, once again, you're not a Murrieta person, but you also like Jasmine, so followed Murrieta politics enough. You know who this person is, and you know the situation in Murrieta. What strikes me as interesting is the timing of this. It happened after he became the face of Murrieta and before the election. The timing couldn't have been more incredible. You couldn't write a script more incredible than this. What's your thoughts, Alex?
My thoughts are that I hate alcohol from the bottom of my soul. Everybody in my family, I'd be hard put to find one person that wasn't at some point or still an alcoholic. I've watched it destroy friends. I've watched it, all the great evil that comes. Me and Carrie Nation are buddies. The only problem is that outlawing it won't work. But I would like to appeal to our audience. If you're having trouble with booze, if you're thinking about becoming a drinker, whatever it is, give it up. It ain't worth it. It stinks. It gives you hangovers. It ruins your life, and it's just the devil's plaything.
Well, and the potential is career killing, political career killing, and whatnot. And there goes Jasmine again, gone back. Okay, wow, you disappeared and came back. Can we hear you? Okay, can you hear me, Jasmine? Is you okay? No, he cannot. So he's lost everything again. Okay, but what I wanted to add to what you just said is, my biological father was an alcoholic. When he died, he had 4 times the legal limit in his system. Drove his car right off of a cliff and into a river. He had just retired not long before that. Now, that is not the reason why I'm not much of a drinker. When I was in the Navy, trust me, I could, throw them back with the best of them. But it just, I've just been the type of person, if I have a drink, it's one. I'll have a beer, and I'm good with it. And I like them real cold, and I don't have them often enough to, outnumber the number of beers I have a year compared to my fingers. That's just the way it is. And then maybe another, 4 or 5 times a year, I might have a margarita. That's just the way it is. Now, that's just who I am. Now, that said, because I'm in the public eye, because everybody sees me, and I know the dangers of alcohol, I'm already one that doesn't drink much. Now, all the more I'm not going to. All the more I'm not going to put myself into that position because I'm in people's eyes. If I can't be trusted with controlling my own alcohol intake, how can I be trusted in anything else? And that goes back to the thing about public trust that Jasmine was bringing up. And that's where the real damage here is. I like Alan Long. He's a good guy. And everybody's like, well, gosh, you sure went after him with your articles. I don't write my articles to make friends. I write my articles by what I see. You know, trust me, I have few friends and a lot of acquaintances. But I'm an opinion writer. That's what I do. But that said, the reality is he made a gross error of judgment. And now he made his bed and he's going to pay for it. All right, that is it for this show. Jasmius, I want you to make one quick final comment. We got like less than a minute on what we were just talking about, and then plug yourself.
Pray for Alan Long's family and for the teenage girl that's still in the hospital, because their lives have been changed forever.
Amen, brother.
I host a podcast at blogtalkradio.com/HSR network called Hard Starboard Radio, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday, and I write at politicalpistachio.com.
Alex?
ConservativeCannonade.org. You can't find better stuff than that.
And I am Douglas V. Gibbs, Constitution Radio. Thanks for spending the time with us. God bless America. God bless you. United we stand. Combined we kick butt. New book, story number 1, which we didn't get to, The Basic Constitution by Douglas V. Gibbs, is on sale now. Go to politicalpistachio.com, and at the top of the page, click to buy the book. $20. We'll see you next week.